Electronics and Semiconductor Summit in partnership with the government of Uttar Pradesh. We are at a pivotal moment where electronics and semiconductors have become the backbone of the modern economy, powering mobility, renewables, defense, telecom, consumer tech, and the digital services shaping everyday life. Now, Uttar Pradesh is stepping forward with rare ambition, building a full-spectrum ecosystem across chip design, EMS, advanced packaging, EV and renewable components, strategic electronics, and global capability centers. Backed by bold policies, scalable infrastructure, rising talent, and deep industry collaboration, this push strengthens supply chains, creates high-value jobs, attracts global investment, and positions India as a trusted technology partner to the world. With global supply chains shifting and India's ambitions accelerating, the opportunity is here and the time is now. We're deeply grateful to the government of Uttar Pradesh for its partnership and leadership, for laying a clear policy vision, building enabling infrastructure, and championing UP's emergence as a global electronics and semiconductor destination. On that note, let's begin a day of insight, dialogue, and collaboration, a day dedicated to the shaping of future of electronics and semiconductors from UP to the world. Now, to officially kick off the summit this evening and set the tone for today's conversations, I would like to invite a thought leader whose vision and insights shapes how India follows global trends and seizes emerging opportunities. Please welcome Dr. Nalin Mehta, Managing Editor, Moneycontrol, to deliver the welcome note.
Thanks very much, Chandra, and Namaskar, Lucknow. We meet today at a moment when Bharat is accelerating towards a technology-led growth cycle, and when Uttar Pradesh is emerging as one of the most important engines of that transformation. The latest annual survey of industries tells us that UP is no longer an emerging player. It is already one of India's top 5 manufacturing states. In fact, it ranks 5th in national manufacturing output with nearly 7% share. It ranks 4th in the country for the number of factories, with nearly 9% of India's operational organized manufacturing units located right here. And it ranks 4th in manufacturing employment, contributing somewhere around 8% of all factory jobs in India. These numbers reflect new scale and new industrial depth that only a handful of Indian states actually now possess. And it is exactly the kind of base that a state needs to take the lead in high technology manufacturing. And nowhere is this more evident than in electronics. Until last year, UP was producing around half of all mobile phones made in India. It accounted for over 50% of mobile components manufactured nationally as well. And it contributed roughly 15% of India's electronic exports in FY25, which makes it number 3 nationwide. This means something very significant. UP is not just participating in Bharat's electronics revolution, it is a crucial emerging powerhouse that is accelerating it. And this is precisely why UP is now so crucial to India's next ambition, which is semiconductors. As the world rewires its supply chains, as geopolitics reshapes technology, and as countries race to secure chip sovereignty, Bharat has launched its most ambitious technology mission ever, which is the India Semiconductor Mission. But no national semiconductor strategy can mean anything without straight and deep execution from states and efficient execution. From Noida to Yeda, from Jewar to Sri Ayodhya Dham, Uttar Pradesh has begun a new transformation. And it has a new policy framework that continues to evolve. The Uttar Pradesh Electronics Manufacturing Policy 2030, with targeted capital subsidies and incentives, the UP Electronics Component Manufacturing Policy of 2025 to kickstart the building blocks of the global electronic supply chain, and the UP Semiconductor Policy of 2024, not just for consumer electronics, but for deep tech and for the semiconductor ecosystem. These policies matter because they bridge what the India Semiconductor Mission is trying to create at the national level, and we have the Joint Secretary from the Ministry of Electronics and IT here. Very grateful to you, sir, for coming down to Lucknow. What they are trying to do at the center and with what states must deliver on the ground here with land, with infrastructure, with clearances, power, water, logistics and skills. The Cabinet Minister for Electronics and IT, Mr. Sunil Kumar Sharma, is here, and we will be talking very shortly about this, sir. So because what you do with this center is fundamentally important to Bharat's future in the semiconductor mission. Now, when you combine these investments with the state's dramatic infrastructure push with expressways, it brings together the real promise of UP's TechNext. Mr. Avnish Awasthi is here, advisor to the Chief Minister, who has played a very important role in defining much of the prehistory of where we are now. So the question we have to ask today is not whether UP can contribute, but the real question is, can UP power a large part of India's semiconductor and electronics future? And the answer, based on the data, the infrastructure, the manufacturing momentum, and the policy direction, is a clear yes. If UP stays on its current trajectory, the state can capture somewhere around 25 to 30% of India's electronic output, become a national leader in semiconductor packaging and assembly, and emerge as a major hub for chip design, for component manufacturing and advanced technology ecosystems. The opportunity for the state is bigger to become a central pillar in India's semiconductor supply chain, and in doing so to anchor India's technological sovereignty in the years ahead. UP TechNext is about making the next leap real. And we have in the room today top policymakers from Uttar Pradesh, ministers, bureaucrats, key private sector leaders, investors, and technologists. This is the moment when vision meets execution. I hope this evening sparks off exciting new ideas, conversations, linkages, and interesting new questions, as well as new answers. Have a great and stimulating evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Nalin, for setting the tone for the evening. And we actually are going to request you, Nalin, to stay back on stage for our first session. Now, electronics and semiconductors now sit at the core of economic competitiveness. And for Uttar Pradesh, this is a mission for scale, resilience, and leadership. In just a few years, UP has built strong policies, activated manufacturing corridors, attracted global investors, and aligned skills with industry needs. So what began as a vision is now real momentum, with the next phase focused on accelerating execution across manufacturing, design, supply chains, and talent development. To explore UP's semiconductor and electronics mission, the story so far and the road ahead, and to share the government's vision and roadmap for this transformation, it's our honor to welcome Shri Sunil Kumar Sharma ji, Honorable Minister for IT and Electronics, Government of Uttar Pradesh. Please join me in welcoming him to the stage. And we welcome Nalin Mehta back to take this conversation forward.
थैंक्स वेरी मच चंद्रा। सुनील जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका कि आप इस मंच पर आए। आप मंत्री हैं इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स और आईटी के। उत्तर प्रदेश में इतना बड़ा इन्वेस्टमेंट आया है 3700 करोड़ का HCL और फॉक्सकॉन का, तो उससे बात शुरू करते हैं। अभी वो जो इन्वेस्टमेंट की जो बात है, जो 3700 करोड़ का जो प्रोजेक्ट है, वो उसकी अभी क्या, वहाँ कहाँ तक पहुँचे हैं और किस स्टेज पर है अभी वो?
उसमें जमीन हम उनको दे चुके हैं। शुरू में भूमि में जहाँ अलॉट की गई थी और वहाँ कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स थी, तो फिर दूसरे सेक्टर में उसको ट्रांसफ़र किया है और उसका जो अतिरिक्त भार था कंपनी पर, वो भी हमने उसको माफ़ किया है। और मुझको लगता है कि 2027-28 तक वहाँ वो कंपनी अपना काम फंक्शनल हो जाएगी।
तो जो जहाँ पे जो जमीन पहले दी गई थी और जहाँ अब दी गई है, उसमें कुछ लैंड प्राइस का भी अंतर है? कुछ
थोड़ा बहुत बीच में कुछ दिक्कत थी, उसकी वजह से लेट हो सकता था। गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी है माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी की कि हमको इसमें विलंब का कोई कारण छोड़ना नहीं। अगर किसी वजह से थोड़ा भी विलंब है तो उस वजह को दूर करो और आगे बढ़ो।
तो ये जो हमारे ऑडियंस की जानकारी के लिए थोड़ा बताइए, जो 3700 करोड़ की इन्वेस्टमेंट है HCL और फॉक्सकॉन की, भारत में सेमीकंडक्टर मिशन के तहत 5 या 6 ऐसी इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हुई हैं, यूपी उनमें से एक है। ये काफ़ी मार्की इन्वेस्टमेंट है और बिटवीन सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एंड स्टेट गवर्नमेंट। तो इसमें सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की भागीदारी, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की भागीदारी और प्राइवेट सेक्टर इन्वेस्टमेंट, उसके बारे में थोड़ा बताइए।
माननीय हमारे देश के यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री माननीय मोदी जी का जो 2047 में भारत को विकसित भारत और आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनाने का संकल्प है, वो बहुत बड़ा संकल्प है। अब जब हम आत्मनिर्भरता की बात करते हैं और चिप आएगी हमारी बाहर से, तो डिपेंडेंसी टोटली खत्म करनी। इसलिए सेमीकंडक्टर के लिए बहुत ही उत्साहवर्धक पॉलिसी भारत सरकार ने बनाई और उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार ने उसमें बढ़ चढ़ करके हिस्सेदारी ली। जो सेमीकंडक्टर पॉलिसी में है कि अभी जो कैपिटल मनी है उसका 50% भारत सरकार देगी। पहले हमने तय किया था कि जितना भारत सरकार देगी उसका 50% हम देंगे, तो एक तरीके से 75% था, लेकिन एचसीएल फोक्स को उनको हमने 60% दिया। अब उसको 80% कैपिटल मनी का जो इंसेंटिव मिलेगा। इसके अतिरिक्त हमने लैंड भी 75% उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार ले रही है। स्टाम्प ड्यूटी फ्री है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जो वो है टैक्स वो फ्री है, और हम इनको बिजली निर्बाध मिले इसलिए डबल ग्रिड इनको कनेक्टिविटी देंगे। पानी की इसमें आवश्यकता है, पानी की कोई दिक्कत ना हो तो इंडस्ट्रियल वाटर की 24/7 की सप्लाई हम देंगे उसको, और किसी भी प्रकार की समस्या ना हो इसके लिए हमने इन्वेस्ट यूपी में और निवेश मित्रा में अधिकारियों को नियुक्त किया है, और किसी को भी किसी प्रकार की दिक्कत नहीं। आज उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार में इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए इतना अनुकूल वातावरण है। मेरे पास इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स विभाग है और हमने अपने विभाग में व्यवस्था की है कि इन्वेस्टर को हमारे कार्यालय, यूपीएलसी के कार्यालय या कहीं आना ना पड़े, उसको अपने ऑफिस में बैठ कर के ही यदि उसने अपनी शर्तें पूरी कर दी हैं तो वहीं वो अपने हमारे जो पोर्टल पर उसको अपलोड कर देगा इंसेंटिव के लिए, उस पर अपनी वीडियो फिल्म और फोटोग्राफ्स अपलोड कर देगा। सॉफ्टवेयर उसको ये बताएगा कि तुम्हारा फॉर्म ठीक भरा गया या नहीं भरा गया, और उसके बाद वो पूरा ऑटोमेटिक प्रोसेस, कहीं उसको कोई रोक नहीं सकता और उसको इंसेंटिव दिया जाएगा। और हमने मैं कह सकता हूं कि जैसे लंबे समय से इंसेंटिव पेंडिंग थे, 2017 की पॉलिसी में जितने लोगों ने अप्लाई किया था, जिनके फॉर्मेलिटीज पूरी थी, हमारे स्तर पर सबको इंसेंटिव हमने जारी कर दिया, एक भी बाकी नहीं है। जो बाकी हैं वो अपने कारणों से, एक दो लोग हैं वो अपने कारणों से, हमारी वजह से।
तो सुनील जी, आपने बताया कि किस तरह के इंसेंटिव्स प्राइवेट सेक्टर पार्टीज के लिए हैं इन्वेस्टमेंट्स के लिए। एक चीज बताइए कि आप जब उत्तर प्रदेश में निवेशक आते हैं और सेमीकंडक्टर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, हमने नंबर्स देखे 50-60% भारत की इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का भारत अब उत्तर प्रदेश में है। मोबाइल फोन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग 50 से 60% यहाँ है। ऑलमोस्ट हर इकोनॉमिक मापदंड में हम चौथे या 5वें स्थान पर हैं, जो काफी प्रोग्रेस हुई है पहले के 5-6 साल मुकाबले के मुकाबले से। लेकिन इन्वेस्टर्स जो है वो कंपेयर करते हैं यूपी को कर्नाटका से, तेलंगाना से, आंध्रा से, तमिलनाडु से। तो आपके जो पॉलिसीज हैं उन स्टेट्स के बनस्पत आप किस तरह से उसको देखते हैं और किस तरह से बेटर है?
देखिएगा, इन्वेस्टर को चाहिए क्या? इन्वेस्टर को चाहिए कि वो जिस राज्य में काम करने के लिए जा रहा है तो वहां अपने आप को सुरक्षित महसूस करे। एक जो काम करना चाहता है उसमें उसको दिक्कतें उत्पन्न ना हो। जिन राज्यों का आपने नाम लिया वो पहले से इसमें बहुत आगे, वहां की सरकारों ने लंबे समय से, आंध्रा की बात करें तो चंद्रबाबू नायडू ने एक वातावरण का निर्माण किया जिसको लोगों ने बाद में भी आगे बढ़ाया और वो चलते रहे। लेकिन हमारे यहाँ पिछले 2017 से और 2002 के बीच उत्तर प्रदेश का जो वातावरण रहा उसमें 3 सरकारें रहीं, उनकी कोई नियति नहीं थी कि और सोच नहीं थी कि उत्तर प्रदेश में इन्वेस्टर आए या इन्वेस्टमेंट हो। उनकी सोच दूसरी तरह की, जिस कारण से प्रदेश बहुत बुरी तरह से बदनाम हो चुका था आपराधिक गतिविधियों के लिए, माफियाओं के लिए। अब 1 डिस्ट्रिक्ट 1 माफिया था। आज योगी जी जब उत्तर प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री हैं तो 1 डिस्ट्रिक्ट 1 प्रोडक्ट।
तो योगी जी
तो यहाँ कट्टे बनते थे, देसी कट्टे बनते थे, आज ब्रह्मोस बन रही है। तो ये चेंज जो हमने दिया है,
AK-47 भी बन रही है, AK-47 भी बन रही है यूपी में।
हाँ, मतलब हमने हमारी माननीय योगी जी की जो सरकार है उसने पूरे वातावरण को बदला। अब लोगों को लगा है कि उत्तर प्रदेश इस लायक है कि हम यहाँ आए तो हम यहाँ सुरक्षित रूप से काम, और सुरक्षित है, बेहतर कानून व्यवस्था है, अपराधियों का जहाँ जगह थी उनको वहाँ पहुँचा दिया गया है, सब ठिकाने लग चुके हैं। अब कोई किसी इन्वेस्टर को कोई तंग नहीं कर सकता। अब कहीं कोई, एक दिन की मैं घटना बताता हूँ आपको। मैं लेट नाइट लास्ट फ्लाइट से लखनऊ से गया और मैं जा रहा था तो मैं इंदिरापुरम में महाराज जी ने कैलाश मानसरोवर भवन बनवाया कैलाश यात्रियों के लिए। जब मेरी गाड़ी वहां से निकली तो समय हो रहा था 12:30 बजे का। तो मेरे यहाँ चूंकि गाजियाबाद इंस्टीट्यूशनल हब भी है, बहुत सारे इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज हैं, मैनेजमेंट कॉलेज हैं, बहुत भारी तादाद में बच्चियां बाहर से आते हैं, पढ़ते हैं। नोएडा वाले भी इंदिरापुरम में आकर के रहते हैं। तो रात को 2-3 बच्चियां घूम रही, 12:30 पौना 1 बजे का समय था। मैंने देखा, मैंने कहा लड़कियां अकेली घूम रही हैं, तो मैंने उनकी बराबर में गाड़ी रोकी। गाड़ी रोक करके तो उनको कोई डर नहीं लगा। मैंने कहा बेटा रात को घूम रहे हो कि हाँ अंकल। मैंने कहा तुम्हें डर नहीं लगा? तो उनका जो जवाब था उसे उन्होंने कहा कि अंकल अब बीजेपी में योगी का राज है।
तो एक चीज बताइए।
वो मुझे नहीं जानते थे मैं कौन।
तो एक चीज बताइए,
तब मैं मिनिस्टर नहीं था, एमएलए था, सामान्य गाड़ी से मैं जा रहा।
आपके कहने का मतलब
तो मेरा ये है कि एक आम व्यक्ति को ये विश्वास हुआ है कि आज उत्तर प्रदेश अपराध और अपराधियों से मुक्त है। इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए यहाँ सारी सुविधाएं हैं, दूसरे राज्यों से अधिक सुविधाएं हैं। तब जाकर के आज आप कह रहे हैं कि हम 5 राज्यों की श्रेणी में आए। लेकिन मैं दावे के साथ कह सकता हूं कि 2027 में डबल इंजन की सरकार उत्तर प्रदेश में बनेगी और हम प्रथम स्थान पर अगले 5 वर्षों में होंगे। वो यूपी फर्स्ट होगा और जो 2047 का भारत, विकसित भारत का सपना है, उसमें इंजन के रूप में उत्तर प्रदेश काम करेगा।
आपने जो कहा उससे ऐसा लग रहा है कि जो इन्वेस्टर्स को तंग करेगा उन पर भी बुलडोजर चलेगा।
बुलडोजर नहीं, बहुत कुछ चलेगा। इन्वेस्टर नहीं, केवल इन्वेस्टर नहीं, मैं कहूंगा कि इस प्रदेश के किसी नागरिक को, चाहे वो श्रमिक है, चाहे वह विद्यार्थी है, चाहे वह व्यापारी है, चाहे वह उद्योगपति है, चाहे इन्वेस्टर है, कोई भी है उत्तर प्रदेश की सीमा में, चाहे देसी है चाहे विदेशी है, उसको परेशान करने वाला, तंग करने वाला समझ ले कि वो सुरक्षित नहीं है।
Let me ask you a question, सुनील जी, that इतने फोन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हो रही है उत्तर प्रदेश में, 50-60% भारत की लगभग। चाइनीज कंपनीज बहुत बना रही है। एंड्रॉइड इकोसिस्टम की जो काफी प्रोडक्शन है यूपी में हो रही है। कुछ एप्पल से भी आपकी बातचीत चल रही है कि फॉक्सकॉन का भी आए और एप्पल की मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यहाँ पर हो।
हमारा निमंत्रण सभी को है और अभी मेरे स्तर तक तो ये विषय नहीं आया है, लेकिन बातचीत हम सबसे करते हैं और हमारे अधिकारी और हमारे माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी सीधे बात करते हैं। जो बड़े समूह आते हैं उनसे सीधे संवाद करते हैं। ऐसे पे शायद पहले मुख्यमंत्री होंगे जो इन्वेस्टर्स के साथ सीधे बैठ करके भी बातचीत करते हैं और उनको आश्वस्त करते हैं। तो ऐसा विषय जब आएगा, मैच्योर होगा, तो आपको जानकारी जरूर दी जाएगी।
तो एप्पल से कुछ खबरें आ रही हैं कि एप्पल की भी कुछ बातचीत चल रही है, इसलिए
एप्पल नहीं, बहुत सारे लोग हैं, एप्पल के अतिरिक्त भी हैं। बातें तो चलती हैं, लेकिन जब मैच्योर हो जाए तभी उसके बारे में कुछ करेंगे।
जो करंट जो इन्वेस्टमेंट्स है सेमीकंडक्टर में, वो ओसैट को लेकर आउटसोर्स सेमीकंडक्टर असेंबली और टेस्टिंग की, राइट? जो फुल स्केल फुल स्टैक प्रोडक्शन है, फैब, उसमें आप स्केल अप कैसे करेंगे? उसके बारे में आपकी थिंकिंग के बारे में बताइए थोड़ा।
अभी हमारी जो वामा सुंदरी है, जो इसको हमने अभी शुरू किया है, जिसमें टेस्टिंग और पैकेजिंग है प्रमुखता से। एक तो मैं बताऊं कि टेस्टिंग और पैकेजिंग और डिजाइन और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, इसमें सबसे ज़्यादा एम्प्लॉयमेंट जो है वो डिजाइन में, टेस्टिंग में और पैकेजिंग में। मैन्युफैक्चरिंग चूँकि बहुत महीन है, इसलिए उसमें ऑटोमेटिक सिस्टम है, रोबोट है, वो सब चीज़ें हैं। तो एम्प्लॉयमेंट इसमें काफ़ी मिलेगा और हम आगे बढ़ेंगे। ये शुरुआत, और ये शुरुआत माननीय मोदी जी की प्रेरणा से भारत में शुरू हुई है ना, पहले कभी सोचा नहीं था। आप देखिएगा ताइवान जैसा देश कहाँ पहुँच गया और हम भारत जैसा बड़ा मुल्क, हम आज उनके पीछे चल रहे हैं, हमको तो उनके आगे होना चाहिए। जो मैंने कहा ना, जो स्थिति 2002 से 17 तक उत्तर प्रदेश की रही, वही 2004 से 2014 तक भारत की भी इस प्रकार की सरकारें रही कि जैसे वो पैरालिसिस हो गया हो, गवर्नमेंट को कुछ करना नहीं है, बस जो चल रहा है उसे चलने दो, जैसे चल रहा है उसे चलने दो, जिसे जो कुछ करना है वो करने दो, चाहे कोई जहां जिसका जो अवसर मिल रहा है। लेकिन मोदी जी आए तो उन्होंने एक एक छोटे से छोटे, महीन से महीन, मैं कहूंगा उन्होंने केवल सेमीकंडक्टर की बात नहीं करी। अगर वो सेमीकंडक्टर की बात कर रहे हैं, वो देश में तेजस बनाने की बात कर रहे हैं, तो उन्होंने गांव में शौचालय बनाने की बात की। हर पहलू पर माननीय मोदी जी ने फोकस किया, काम किया, उसका नतीजा है कि हम बहुत तेजी के साथ आगे बढ़े।
सो इन टर्म्स ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फॉर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड सेमीकंडक्टर्स, हमारा जो कंपटीशन है वो सिर्फ बाकी स्टेट से नहीं है, बाकी देशों से भी है, क्योंकि कंपनीज यहाँ पे आके निवेश करें। तो अभी जो टैरिफ्स की वजह से काफी अनसर्टेनिटी चल रही है, तो जब आप एक्सपैंड करेंगे फ्रॉम से पैकेजिंग टू कंपोनेंट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग टू ग्लोबल सप्लाई चेन्स, उसके लिए क्या सोच है यूपी सरकार की, और किस तरह, और क्या आपकी थिंकिंग ऑन दैट?
इसमें हम
हाउ विल यू एनकरेज इट?
हर प्रकार से मैन्युफैक्चरिंग की जब यूनिट आएगी, अभी एक प्रस्ताव आया था, भारत सरकार में विचाराधीन है, वो टार्क का, वो 27,000 करोड़ का 27,000 करोड़ का इन्वेस्टमेंट था। अप्रूवल मिलेगी तो हम उसको भी देंगे, उसमें उत्पादन भी है, या कोई दूसरा भी उत्पादन की यूनिट आएंगी तो उसको देंगे, पूरी मदद हम करेंगे, उत्पादन में उनकी हेल्प करेंगे। और टैरिफ से हम पे कोई फर्क पड़ने वाला नहीं है। आप देख रहे हैं जीडीपी हमारी कितनी गई है, टैरिफ के बाद गई है ना, मेरे ख्याल से रिकॉर्ड है, पिछले वर्ष तो बहुत कम थी, तो उसकी कोई चिंता नहीं।
सो सी वन ऑफ द क्रिटिसिजम्स जो आपके आलोचक हैं वो ये कहेंगे कि, और ये एक लार्जर पॉलिसी डिबेट है कि हमने 70 to 80% मान लीजिए इन्वेस्टमेंट सेंटर और स्टेट से मिलकर किया सेमीकंडक्टर्स से, तो अगर इतना इन्वेस्टमेंट अगर सरकार की तरफ से है तो सिर्फ 15-20% प्राइवेट सेक्टर की तरफ से आया, हाउ सस्टेनेबल इज दैट इन द लॉन्ग रन?
जब कोई उद्योग लगता है और उस उद्योग में एक व्यक्ति को रोजगार मिलता है, तो उस एक व्यक्ति के माध्यम से 10 से 15 लोगों को रोजगार और मिलता है। अगर हम एक यूनिट में 100 लोगों को एम्प्लॉयमेंट देंगे तो लगभग 1500 लोगों को एम्प्लॉयमेंट और मिलेगा। रोजगार देना सरकार की जिम्मेवारी है, और उस जिम्मेवारी का निर्वाह हमारी सरकार, राज्य सरकार और केंद्र सरकार मिल करके कर रहे हैं। एक बात। दूसरी बात, सेमीकंडक्टर में हम जब आत्मनिर्भर होंगे तो हम निर्यात भी करेंगे, उससे आय भी होगी। आज ये इन्वेस्टमेंट अगर इन्वेस्टर का है तो सरकार का भी इन्वेस्टमेंट ही है। और एक बात बताऊं मैं आपको, मैं देहात से मेरा नाता है, मेरा जन्म
साहिबाबाद से 3 टाइम एमएलए है।
हाँ, साहिबाबाद तो शहर है, लेकिन मेरा जन्म गांव में हुआ, ग्रेजुएशन मैंने गांव से किया। तो गांव में वनस्पति घी का प्रयोग नहीं होता था, सब लोग देसी घी जो गाय का है उसका प्रयोग करते थे। तो जब वनस्पति घी आया, हमारे यहाँ मोदी नगर में मोदी वनस्पति था, एक डालडा था, तो वो गांव में जाते थे और लोगों को हलवा बना करके फ्री खिलाते थे। हलवा बन रहा है, बढ़िया स्वादिष्ट हलवा बना रहे हैं, उसमें ड्राई फ्रूट्स भी डाल रहे हैं, और डाल करके बहुत अच्छा प्लेट में लगा के देने, खा के देखिए बिल्कुल असली घी जैसा है, लोग खाते थे। तो ये तो व्यापार है, उन्होंने तब वो उसको फ्री में खिलाया, जब उनका बिकने लगा तो फिर पैसे का बेचा।
So what you are saying is that we have to take the first steps and the government is providing an enabling environment ताकि खड़े अपने पैरों पे खड़े हो जाए सब कुछ।
सबको मैंने कहा ना कि विकसित भारत और आत्मनिर्भर भारत, उसका केवल इससे नहीं होगा कि हमने अपनी इकोनॉमी को मजबूत कर लिया, उससे होगा कि हमारी डिपेंडेंसी खत्म हो। और जिस बार भी जहां भी हम डिपेंड हैं, उस डिपेंडेंसी को खत्म करने के लिए राज्य सरकार और केंद्र सरकार अपनी जिम्मेवारी समझती है कि इसको हम खत्म करें। उसके लिए हमें प्रोत्साहित करना होगा, हम प्रोत्साहित करेंगे, इंसेंटिव देंगे, अन्य सुविधाएं देंगे, लेकिन देश आत्मनिर्भर होगा।
One final question, sir, and we have 2 minutes left on this. Electronics और सेमीकंडक्टर्स, एक पे आपने बताया किस तरह से सरकार की फोकस है, किस तरह से एम्फेसिस दिया जा रहा है, लेकिन जो $1 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी की जो योगी आदित्यनाथ ने जो विजन बताया है, और उसके लिए एम्प्लॉयमेंट और को बढ़ाना बहुत जरूरी है, इकोनॉमी को बढ़ाना बहुत जरूरी है, उसमें एम्प्लॉयमेंट को लेकर व्हाट इज द रोल इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड सेमीकंडक्टर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग विल प्ले इन दैट आइडिया?
$1 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी का जो उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार का संकल्प है, मैं कह सकता हूं कि उसको पूरा करने में इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स और आईटी आईटीएस का बहुत बड़ा हिस्सेदारी रहने वाली है। आज आपने ही बताया कि सबसे बड़ा इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स का मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हब यूपी बनता जा रहा है, मोबाइल के हम सबसे ज़्यादा उत्पादन हमारे यहाँ हो रहा। मैं इससे आगे बढ़ के कहता हूँ कि अभी वो एक क्षेत्र तक सीमित है, एनसीआर में। आज यूपी वो यूपी नहीं है, आज पूरा उत्तर प्रदेश एक्सप्रेसवे से जुड़ा हुआ है। अभी गंगा एक्सप्रेसवे तैयार हो जाएगा, पूर्वांचल एक्सप्रेसवे बन गया, यमुना एक्सप्रेसवे है, लखनऊ एक्सप्रेसवे है। इतने एक्सप्रेसवे हैं कि हमारे जितने बड़े शहर हैं वो सब अंतर्राष्ट्रीय हवाई सेवा, इंटरनेशनल एयर कनेक्टिविटी से जुड़े हुए हैं और एक्सप्रेसवे से जुड़े हुए हैं। अब किसी को इंडस्ट्री लगानी है तो जरूरी नहीं है कि वो नोएडा मिले। हम भविष्य में चल करके ये इस योजना पे काम कर रहे हैं कि उत्तर प्रदेश के हर क्षेत्र में हम बढ़िया इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स क्लस्टर स्थापित करें ताकि वहाँ के लोगों को भी रोजगार मिले। और मैंने जो कहा कि उत्तर प्रदेश तीसरे, चौथे, पांचवे पे नहीं, नंबर 1 पर लाना और ला करके रहेंगे, हमारा निश्चय है।
सुनील कुमार शर्मा जी, तो ऑन दैट नोट, थैंक यू वेरी मच लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन, बिग हैंड फॉर द इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड आईटी मिनिस्टर।
धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much for that amazing conversation, and the minister also throwing a lot of zingers that, you know, earlier it was one district, one mafia, now it's one district, one product. I would just like to invite Mr. Ashok Chandak up on stage to present a vision document for Uttar Pradesh the industry has put together. We hope this goes a long way with the state achieving its mission of being a leader in semiconductor. Huge round of applause for that. Mr. Pal, we request all the dignitaries for a photo opportunity on stage with the minister. Thank you very much, sir, for that crisp and energizing session that truly brought UP Semiconductor mission to life. Thank you, Nalin. Bringing policy vision into real on-ground impact takes coordination, clarity, and constant execution. And that's where today's next door voice becomes especially important. It's about connecting big picture strategy with day-to-day delivery, ensuring that infrastructure, investments and talent all move in step. And it's about removing roadblocks so that projects move from paper to production at speed. Now, to guide this conversation, let's welcome Mr. Bodhisattva Ganguly from Moneycontrol, and to share how Uttar Pradesh is translating ambition into action. Please welcome someone who has the Chief Minister's ears, Shri Avnish Kumar Awasthi, Advisor to the Honorable Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. A huge round of applause for Mr. Awasthi as he comes up on stage. Thank you, Mr. Awasthi. Thank you, Mr. Ganguly.
Thank you.
Are we not too far away? I want to be close to Moneycontrol.
Thank you so much. That's quite a zinger to start the
Yes.
interaction.
Because money control has money as well as control.
We
Important
hope
words.
so. We hope so.
Sir, shoot.
Thank you, Avnish ji. Thank you for coming here and for gracing this occasion. I know you have important commitments later on in the evening, so thank you so much for taking time out. Well, I'll just take off from one aspect. The minister in the discussion with Nalin referred to the 1 trillion target, and I think it's important if India is to reach the Vikasit Bharat goal by 2047. It's important that UP also hit the 1 trillion. I think you're about 1/3 of the way there, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
Can you talk a bit about that?
So Viksit Bharat 2047 is a dream which has been seen by the Honorable Prime Minister, and he announced that on the Independence Day, 15th August, few years ago. How many of you know what Viksit Bharat is? Can somebody raise a hand? What is Viksit Bharat? What does Viksit Bharat mean in terms of money value? Anyone? Anyone in the audience? So Viksit Bharat in money value, what the Honorable Prime Minister has said is that we have to be in 100 years a developed country.
Yeah.
A developed country means per capita income should be equivalent to what developed countries have. So he has fixed a target of 30 trillion as the base for the economy in 2047. And with that in background, we in Uttar Pradesh, our Chief Minister, our Prime Minister is from Uttar Pradesh. So our Chief Minister said that why should UP be behind? We are almost about 18 to 20% of the population. So if in 2047, India reaches 30 trillion, we being 1/5 of India in terms of population, and we are the most youthful population in the country, why should we not be 1/5 of that target? And so 6 trillion is what our Chief Minister has enunciated, in line with what the Prime Minister has already given as the target for the entire country. Now, 6 trillion by 2047 is the long-term target. But our Chief Minister, again, about 2 to 3 years ago, was the first Chief Minister who said that let us take our state to a situation where we achieve a $1 trillion economy for the state itself. And I can say this for sure, Maharashtra has the largest state GSDP. We are somewhere with Tamil Nadu second or third. And right now we have achieved almost about $350 billion in terms of
That's right, yeah.
the state GSDP as on March 2025. And this is equivalent to about 29.6 lakh crore rupees. We will, as our Chief Minister has announced, we'll reach about 36 lakh crores by the end of this year, which is March 2026. And that will cross $400 billion in terms of state GSDP. There are two other numbers which are important for you to understand. And because we are speaking of money control, we are speaking of manufacturing, we are speaking of electronics and the area of semiconductors. So, one, in 2017, the state per capita income was somewhere between 45,000 rupees to less than 50,000 rupees. And today, in 2025, our per capita income has reached 1.2 lakh rupees. Now, this is almost 2 times plus, and this is the highest achievement which is possible for any state.
Yeah.
But what is more important is, when in 1970 we compare what UP was, UP's per capita income was 80% of the national average. We slowly and gradually came down till 2017. Our per capita income became only 50% of the national average. But in the last 8 years, this trend has now reversed. We have now started increasing our contribution to the national economy as well. Our per capita income has now started reaching the national average. Last year we are about 53%. We are growing faster than the national average. Our nominal growth is more than 50%, 15%. But even with this nominal growth, we will find it difficult to achieve a 1 trillion. Our nominal growth has to become 20%. And this is where important sectors which are important for us are tourism, where we have done extremely well. I am sure in this audience, how many of you have been to the Kumbh? Kumbh, Allahabad, Prayag. How many of you have been to Ayodhya, Ram Mandir? How many of you have been to Kashi? Quite a few. So tourism has done extremely well. We have seen, we are going to achieve about 100 crore tourists in UP in the current year. But the areas where we need to work are manufacturing and in the area of IT, and that is the reason why it is so important today that UP TechNext has taken this agenda on board of electronics and semiconductor. I'm very happy. Congratulate you for that.
Thank you, Avasthi. I think that's quite a lot. So what role does semiconductors and electronics specifically play in this 1 trillion target?
Sir,
these are high value added industries, and already in when it comes to cell phones, 50% of India's cell phones are made in UP, which is something.
We, again, I'll come back to what the Honorable Prime Minister said in this Independence Day. We have missed the bus in India in case we need to move forward. Any country in the world, and you can see comparisons, any country in the world moves forward only when they have technology, which is research, as well as manufacturing. We in India are weak on manufacturing, as well as we don't have the high-end technologies, or we don't have the expertise to develop such high-end technologies. So I'm very happy that the Honorable Prime Minister this time has very clearly enunciated that semiconductors is an area where we need to move forward. We have to get our chips made for ourselves because we are one of the largest consumers of chips in the world. Second, we have to have our jet engines. We are the largest, we are the people who use the largest number of commercial planes in the world. We should have our own security network so that we have a, what he called as Iron Dome sort of arrangement, Sudarshan Chakra, so that we are secure for the times to come. Because we obviously, the moment we start growing, we will be a threat to the large nations. So there will be threats to us, and that requires a lot of work in the defense area. So what I would like to say is in semiconductors, everything that you can think of today of use in daily life requires chips. You all know how and what the problems arrived in when we had COVID, where we had a short supply of chips. So it is here where efforts have to be made. I'm so very happy that very soon the HCL Foxconn project has been approved by the UP cabinet. It has gone to the government of India. Very soon we will see the work start on the ground. Large other projects are also being envisaged. And I'm so very happy to say that again, Jewar Airport, which is going to come in the NCR area, it is going to be one of the largest airports of Asia. This airport and the adjoining areas of NCR with their industrial backup in Yamuna Expressway, in Greater Noida, and in the new Noida areas will ensure that we have a manufacturing base which will be good, not just for semiconductors, but for electronics also.
So, how soon do you think HCL Foxconn will start? There's also another which has been approved, which involves Hiranandani's, right? Or
yes.
That's also,
yes.
Where does that stand?
So, as far as HCL Foxconn is concerned, only day before, yesterday I came to know because there was a conference on IT regarding our Viksit UP campaign. So, I'm told that their financial arrangement, their the agreement between the government of India and the company has to be executed very soon. That is expected to be done. So I expect in the next 2 to 3 months, actual work on the ground will start. Land has already been allotted. The state government has already given its clearance. And obviously our state government policy goes beyond what is provided by government of India. As regards Hiranandani, they are also the new policies that we have for the GCC, the new existing policy for data centers, all of those are going to be pushed very hard. We expect that large and big projects to come up, not just in the NCR area, but maybe also in the Lucknow area. We are proposing AI city at Lucknow. So that is also in the annual, and we are going to get private public-private participation so that we follow a model which has been executed in other parts of India also.
Right. So I'll ask you the sort of a last couple of questions. One, it was covered in the earlier discussion also, but one criticism is that there are incentives being offered by the UP government, and a lot of the capital costs are being picked up by the central government and the UP government combined. And there's some thought process that could be excessive. What are your comments on that?
Sir, how many of you know that which is the largest budget of any state in the country? UP. And we have a budget which is more than 8 lakh crores. In fact, about 8 lakh 10,000 crores. So we have the largest budget in the country. How many of you know that the largest capital budget in the country is Uttar Pradesh, which is 2 lakh crores? We have been part of the development process of our state. And I can tell you, whether it is the power sector, whether it is the expressway sector, whether it is the tourism sector, whether it is making Kashi Vishwanath Dham, any of the sectors that you can think of, and of course the sector for semiconductors and electronics, money is not the issue. The issue is how to get the projects on the ground, and that is where a lot of effort is being made by the Chief Minister, the entire team in industry to take things forward. We have a surplus budget, and these are the figures by AG. We have a surplus budget where the Finance Minister, if he was here, would tell you that we have a surplus currently of about 55 to 60,000 crores. So the budget is there. We need to push forward and use that budget. And so money is not an issue for us.
Two quick questions.
And the two reasons why is, one, the revenue collections is one area where our Chief Minister has been very harsh. So our excise revenues have become 4 times of what they were in 2017. Our mining revenue has become 3 times of what it was there in 2017. Our revenue in GST, of course, that takes time, but that has also increased tremendously in our state. Our revenue from transport collection has also increased 2 times in the last 7 or 8 years. So our revenue collections also have been one of the most positive. We are a state which is revenue surplus, and I did 80,000 crores of roads, and there was not a single day where I had any issues on getting finances for financing our roads. In fact, my finance department sometimes would tell me that here you are getting 3,000 crores, please use it as fast as possible so that we can give you the next installment. So money is not the issue. The issue is to get the projects on the ground and move fast.
So Andhra Pradesh saw this big investment by Google in data centers.
Yes.
And anything happening?
Sir, that is a strategy that they have followed, that for private sector they are offering land for free. And that is one strategy which obviously UP, a state where our land is very fertile, we have very costly land. Our NCR area land is costly. Land in and around Lucknow or any of the urban areas is costly. But our Chief Minister has already taken this challenge, and very soon we are going to come up with strategies where the private partners become partners in our project. So ultimately, upfront, they will not be charged for the land, but over a period of time, the project, as it moves forward and makes money, the lease rent for the land will be collected, and that will ensure that upfront cost of land does not come and reflect on the investor.
Are you finding it difficult to compete with the kind of incentives some states are offering?
Sir, our incentives are one of the best. We have 33 policies in our state, and I did 2 policies for our state as Power Secretary just before I retired. And I can tell you, in the solar policy now, we were way behind in the solar sector in Uttar Pradesh, but we are now challenging the larger states. And in fact, in rooftop solar, the PM solar, we are the maximum in the entire country. In CBG, compressed biogas, we are the topmost producers of CBG in the country. Our size ensures that whatever we do, if we are going to push it, we will be at the top. We are the largest milk producer. We are the largest sugar producer. We are the largest now industrial alcohol producer. We are now the largest food grain producer. We are probably the second largest producer in vegetables and fruits. Very soon that also we are going to upgrade, and incidentally in the area of food processing and other areas we are also going to grow. So ultimately the idea is to take UP to a level where we are growing at a nominal rate of at least 20%. You know already that India is now growing at 8.2%, but we need to do much better than that to ensure that we reach our 1 trillion target.
Okay. On that note, Avnishji, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me. And I can go on and on this issue, but there are areas where I would
your
like...
passion is self.
There are areas where I would like you to take up, that is infrastructure of UP, airports, expressways, metros, RRTS, you name it, and it is part of UP, and now a ropeway in Varanasi. Thank you very much.
We'll devote a session to that.
Thank you.
We request you to stay
Why
back
don't you-
on
why don't you
stage
just stay
for
back
a
for a minute?
minute. You know, it's his wedding anniversary today, and despite that, he's here to make a big pitch for Uttar Pradesh. So thank you very much for that. And we have a surprise for you sitting in the audience. Mrs. Awasthi, thank you very much. Happy anniversary. I'm sure this wasn't your anniversary plan, ma'am.
Octane, I thought she's getting me a cake. Hey, thank you. No, thank you so much. This came as a surprise. I was teaching students in Batkande, and I got frantic calls. Please come to Taj. Please come to Taj. I came running. कि हुआ क्या गया? अभी हंसते हुए बता रहे हैं कि we have a surprise. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. We completed 38 years of our
And
marriage.
Mrs. Awasthi is no stranger to all of you. She's a very well-renowned singer. So, ma'am, on the occasion of your anniversary, 1 or 2 lines for sir that you would like to say.
दिन भर सुनते ही रहते हो तो बेचारे. I don't think he was in a mood to hear this. लेकिन हम लोग के 2 साल शादी तय रही, so it is a 40th, you can say 40 years of togetherness. So may this, 2 lines, okay.
Ma'am, it's an anniversary request.
नजरिया लग जाए मेरे बनने को कोई मत देखो, नजरिया लग जाए मेरे बनने, आहा जी मेरे नौशे को कोई मत देखो, नजरिया लग जाए मेरे बनने को कोई मत देखो, नजरिया.
Thank you very much, ma'am. A huge round of applause. That was totally unscripted, but thank you for being such a
Thank you,
sport.
News 18 and Moneycontrol, for this momentous occasion for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And we promise not to take more time away from you on your anniversary, but thank you
Can
very
I
much.
say one more thing? This is also a surprise. We are here at Moneycontrol. So all I want to say is, आज तो आजा बगल में. We are both traveling in our own orbit, busy. Somebody said yesterday that we are done with an institution called marriage, and that she would not recommend young people get into this. All I have to say is, in India, we are saved, and we have managed to save our traditions and culture because of very strong foundation of marriage. And marriage is all about family values, bonding and getting and bringing everybody close together. And any marriage, for that matter, any relationship requires a lot of understanding and companionship and understanding where you surrender your ego, and the larger goal should be the bigger goal between the two. So I would say to everyone who's still thinking whether to get married or not, do get married and have children as fast as possible. And be happy.
आप अभी कह रही थी थोड़ी देर पहले जब हम लोग यहाँ बात कर रहे थे और जब अवस्थी साहब का यूपी की इस इलेक्ट्रॉनिक जर्नी पर सब कुछ चल रहा था, सेमीकंडक्टर जर्नी पर, कि जो सो हमने सोचा नहीं था कि इस लखनऊ में ये भी कभी डिस्कशन होगा और इस पर भी यहाँ पर इस तरह के कन्क्लेव्स होंगे. आपने इस चेंज को कैसे महसूस किया इतने वर्षों में जो मेजर शिफ्ट आया है?
देखिए पत्रकार पत्रकारिता नहीं छोड़ते। नहीं, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा। मैं यही कह रही थी कि कभी सोचा नहीं था हम लोगों ने कि इकोनॉमिक फोरम्स जो है स्टेट के उसमें आएंगे, वो इतने इम्पोर्टेंट होंगे पॉलिसी मेकिंग में, डिसीजन मेकिंग में, फॉर ब्रांड्स ऑल्सो टू टॉक अबाउट इट, हाउ दे विल have a role in a development area. All I will say is it is great to see UP where it is heading. As a young and a very staunch UPI, this is where we always dreamt to take UP, and I feel so proud when I see the taglines and I see UP on top 2 numberings. This was a dream. I think every UPI had given up long back. ये UP का तो कुछ नहीं हो पाएगा, but somehow I think with blessings of Lord Ram, we have managed to reach where we used to watch other states, leading. UP is leading by example, and may this grow by years. So thank you so much for bringing this.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Awasthi, for speaking at our forum and taking time out, and for those valuable insights. Here's wishing you both many more years of togetherness and happiness. Thank you very much. Moving on, now if the semiconductor mission is about building for the long term, then the real question becomes, how do we prepare the next generation to lead it? Then this next phase isn't just about. Now, the path from vision to reality requires the right frameworks, bold technological advances, and scalable manufacturing, all working together in harmony. Success will depend on bridging the gap between global best practices and local execution, and fostering collaborations that accelerate both innovation and industrial growth. This session dives into how these elements come together to create the new architecture of India's semiconductor rise. To explore this dynamic landscape, joining us are Vaishali Sagar, Government Policy and Public Affairs Lead, Micron India. Please welcome her with a big round of applause. Vivek Tyagi, Managing Director and Country Manager, Analog Devices India. Mr. Ashok Chandak, President, SEMI India and India Electronics and Semiconductor Association, or ISA, and Dr. Wasiuddin, Head of R&D, and Dr. Wasiuddin, Head of R&D, Keen Semicon. Please welcome them with a big round of applause. Thank you very much. And it's a strange coincidence. I met half of this panel in Bangalore Tech Summit just a couple of weeks ago. And that's where I persuaded them that now, after coming to Bangalore, you must come to Lucknow and really take part in the semiconductor story happening in other parts of India as well. So thank you very much, all of you, for taking out time, for flying in from different cities and being part of this. Mr. Chandak, let me start with you. You presented a vision document to the IT Minister, but give us perspective on where we are today in terms of semiconductor, and where are the gaps, how far do we have to go? Give us an overview of where we are, because ISM-1 was very ambitious, the India Semiconductor Mission 1, with an outlay of $10 billion. I think nearly a dozen projects sanctioned in different parts of the country. We are gearing up for India Semiconductor Mission 2.0. We'll ask Mrs. Sushil Pal more on that later. But tell us about, your own assessment of where we are today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you all today, guys. India is really making a major progress in the semiconductor journey. And I would call we're at a turning point, in the sense that it is not just incremental, but a major leap. And I will explain how. In addition, we are also making a progress in terms of our overall ESDM's ecosystem. So today, if we look back a few years ago, we had no projects approved for semiconductor manufacturing or ATMPs or OSATs. The electronics manufacturing was just about to begin. Now already we have, if I look at the India map, and I can circulate that copy to you, there are 16 projects. Those are running on ground for semiconductor manufacturing, including ATMPs. 10 of them are already approved by METI under India Semiconductor Mission.
16 in various parts
of the country.
And this is from northeast to North
Everywhere.
India
You look
to
at
south to the west.
You look at the Gujarat, you look at the Assam, the entire east-west is covered. You look at UP now, you go down up to, Chennai areas, and then everything is covered, including the central area, Chhattisgarh, all those. And these are all progressing now, and we would see very soon the chips, those are assembled and packaged in the country very soon. The fab takes time. One thing everybody need to understand that the semiconductor manufacturing is a bit long haul. And many times it is assumed by people that once the project is approved, next year, where is the output, what is the outcome, what is the impact, where are the chips and how it is going. It takes time. But we are making good progress. Today, we are at an unprecedented scale of electronics manufacturing in the country. We are also in parallel growing our semiconductor supply. Number two, we are also having the largest design pool of the chip design engineers worldwide, sitting right in India. So you would see that design and all manufacturing, we are stepping up. We are making good progress actually. Obviously, the biggest shortfall we have is India does not have the manufacturing technology. And that is where we are dependent on the other countries. And because of the strategic importance of semiconductor, which is more understood during last few years, many countries are probably a little bit holding back. But I want to give you an example that recently we had a Semicon event in just a couple of months ago in Delhi. And we had CXOs of almost 45 companies visiting in India. And 25 of those CXOs met Honorable Prime Minister. Mr. Paul was there, including MeitY officials actually. So the things are progressing. The worldwide now we see that the other countries are looking at a trustworthy partner, a democratic trustworthy partner, and that is where the India really makes sense. And many countries are looking at now expanding that relationship with us. And I would say that over the next few years, we can see this journey accelerating much in a further momentous way. And we will see those India chips utilized into our electronics manufacturing.
Right. Thank you for that perspective from an industry ecosystem perspective on where we are. As you said, there's a lot of impatience that, where are the chips and projects, 10 projects, 12 projects have been sanctioned, but, nothing is out yet. But as you said, it's a very long haul process. Let's in fact hear it from the players. We have three big players on stage, Micron, Analog Devices, as well as Kane Semicon. If you can give us your own perspective of global players operating in India, of where you see the semiconductor journey. Are you excited about the market from a talent perspective? Can we go beyond the whole ATMP and OSAT process? If you can give us your perspective.
Yeah. Chandra, so we just started in the manufacturing journey, as Ashok described now. But we should not forget that for last 35 or 40 years, India is already part of the semiconductor design ecosystem around the world. So it was started by Texas Instruments in 1985, and subsequently today, if you see, almost every top 25 semiconductor company in the world has a chip design center. And that's a high value added job. So that's the strength of India already existing for last 20 plus years. Roughly 20% of the semiconductor design engineers of the world are operating from India. It has been more with multinational historically, but now in last 5 years with the design linked incentive schemes of the mighty government of India, we can see a mushrooming of many Indian startups doing chip design here.
Right.
So that is a historical strength of India. And I think that strength has been utilized by global companies in terms of the large talent pool, and now it is becoming strength for the startups also. So while manufacturing is a new activity and it's a long haul, it will take time and we have to get there. But we should not forget that this element of semiconductor is a strength of India already for many years, and we should continue to strengthen this.
In terms of the chip design capabilities.
Yeah, chip design capability. Today, if 20% of the workforce is here, my wish is it should be 25%, 30% of the world chip design workforce could be here. That's also an important part of the global ecosystem.
Right. Vaishali?
Thank you. And I'll pick up from where Vivek is left with respect to the design incentive conversation, right? On a lighter note, I think when I hear folks across different governments speaking about incentives and creating the policy infrastructure that really works for many of us as organizations on the other side, I remember a startup from one of the DLI participants mentioning, we were expecting a red tape, but we've actually received red carpet. It's actually a shift that we've all experienced in many, many ways, and I'm pretty sure folks on the stage can also experience it from their organizations, right? What we got right was infrastructure, talent. With respect to India, again, I just go back to those 4 points that I go back and say on what worked really well for India: infrastructure, talent. We've got great policies in infrastructure right now. But what got us here will not get us there with respect to where we should go in the next 20 years for becoming Viksit Bharat. We should really, I think, align on becoming a little bit more on designing, developing innovation and co-innovation as well, as we could see. Design as well, we've got R&D centers in both, in different parts of the country. We have a little over 5,500 of us who operate only on R&D. We're the largest semiconductor GCC as Micron in India, who set up their R&D first for the last 6 years and come up with the manufacturing or the back-end manufacturing that's coming up in Sanand. I think great pieces with respect to infrastructure policy have been called out. There is a greater need for talent. There's a greater need for incentive stack that we need to go back and work across with. And 3 things I think that will really, really need to align, and the way that I currently see them as levers is R&D university, R&D grants that you do, and how do you link it to the commercialization for most of us as organizations so that there are commercialized outcomes. Second, with respect to universities that need industry level, industry graded lab access, which is something that's not really talked about in the last, ISM 1.0. I think it needs a lot of discussion there. And of course, the third one with respect to DLI ecosystem of startups that we currently have. How do we bring more pathways to procurement for them as well as an ecosystem that we need to go back and look at? So these 3 pieces, I think, will also need a little bit more push with respect to where we see ISM 2.0 and of course what worked well.
Dr. Vasud, you've sort of been on the other side.
Yeah, that's true. So we need to understand from a point of view of the whole ecosystem. So sir talked about the chip design activity.
Yeah.
We are a OSAT which package the chip after the chip is coming out of the fab. But we also need package design engineers, package design ecosystem. That's very important and very rare in the country. I'm facing a lot of problem getting a right lead frame design engineer. So those kind of skill set that can be used for using the DLI scheme. There are tools available. Even simulation softwares like HFSS, access to that if students have, they can solve the problem, real world problem of our customers right now. That is one possibility. Second, on the overall perspective, we also need to think that the overall ecosystem can be built. For example, in UP, if there is a limitation on budget, but from the government side, there is no restriction on the budget side. If investors do not want to open a fab, there are so much thing in the ecosystem. I give you one example. One is the lead frame. In the country, no one is making lead frame for us. We need to import that. Lead frame is not just a copper strip stamped with some design tool. That's not a very complex process. It's a simple process, at least what we are doing. And India, all the OSAT which are setting up the plant, my estimate is more than 90% are the lead frame based packages which we are doing. There's a huge demand. More than 2.5 billion lead frame strips are required. So this is a total more than 3,000 crore market. Someone need to see all other aspect of the ecosystem to grow. And from the policy side, I think we need to include more towards the semiconductor ecosystem players, more ancillaries to be supported. For example, specialty gases, chemicals, lead frame, molding compound, all those which we use. These all, check the bomb, how they make it. So for example, the bonding wires. Making of an aluminum wire using a drawing process is not that complex as making a chip. So that can be done. And this is only single one material. If it is aluminum, it is only aluminum. But in a chip, there are a lot of material. So we can see that there are various opportunity to look at from the investment point of view.
Right. Interestingly, all of you mentioned issues around talent. And I think Gujarat has set up a university to just train people on skills related to semiconductors. In fact, we are going to have him discuss it with us in one of the sessions. But Mr. Chanak, do you think that will be the answer, that, we need dedicated universities, dedicated efforts for this? This is not going to come by rebadging, retraining, like what we've done with IT services for the last 20, 30 years. That these are very specialized skills. And interestingly, this is I mean, at a time when people are talking about jobs getting displaced because of AI, here you have a conundrum where you have the jobs, but you don't have the talent for that, despite having so many STEM graduates in the country.
Talent or the skilled manpower for semiconductor industry is going to be a big problem next 5 years. Worldwide, whatever some of the surveys and research, market research has been done, when I look into that, the demand for these specialized roles is increasing manifold, and those do not exist actually.
So is this an India problem or a worldwide?
It's a world problem. It's a world problem. I'm coming to the world problem first. It's a worldwide is a problem actually. And why I bring that world problem is because India can fill the void, and India has an opportunity in that case. So based on some of the estimate, by 2030, there is at least 700,000 shortage of manpower for a semiconductor industry, from design to manufacturing, everything. Why? Because the skill sets requirements have changed, and they are changing. Going forward, we are moving to a very different technology node. We are moving towards the supercomputing and all those things, GPUs, plus the quantum is coming up, and on the manufacturing side, design side, equally same. Now, the advantage and point here is, in India, we have so many technical universities, including UP, we have 400 colleges plus, and many states. There are, the task for us now is, how do we train these people? So there are two things to be done. Number one, the curriculum has to be updated and modified so that it reflects the requirement of the future, not for yesterday. And that is a discussion which ISA as a body also have started with many institutes. And number two, anticipating those manufacturing scale-up that is going to happen in the country, we need to build this manufacturing-related training programs. And we started that. I'll give you one example. We recently did a 5-day workshop and training program with IIT BHU. 2,600 people registered actually for the program.
Wow.
That's more than 5 times more than our initial estimate. We thought we will do 500 people, and we had 2,500 people. So there is a lot of curiosity, interest in the semiconductor world by the students community as well as the faculty and industry, as they know this is a very lucrative and very good job prospect, and we need to build on that. So I think it is the industry and institutes who have started now working much more collaboratively to create these curriculum updates, the training programs and the practical training programs, so that we fulfill that void of the talent which is coming up for future actually.
Got it. As you know, 3 important companies, Micron, Analog and Keynes. Tell us about the potential that you see in Uttar Pradesh, because if you look at it from an R&D perspective, whether it's a Qualcomm, whether it's an NXP, whether it's a MediaTek, whether it's a Renesas, all of them have set up R&D centers in Noida. I think UP produces what 50% of mobile devices in the country. So electronics, there's already a hockey stick kind of growth. What potential do you see in the state? Do you think that it can emerge as a semicon electronics hub, an R&D hub, like Bangalore? I mean, you've seen what AMD says about Bangalore, that it's going to be the chip design hub for them. But what potential do you see in UP, considering the government is rolling out the red carpet and putting together a brand new airport to tackle the logistics, tackling power, water, and so on?
So Bangalore obviously have, a head start over the other cities, because 1985, the first chip design center was set up in Bangalore. Yeah. And then even the company I represent, Analog Devices, today celebrating 30th year anniversary of being in India, starting from Bangalore. But besides Bangalore, in last, I would say, almost 15 to 20 years, Hyderabad and Noida have really emerged as a center of excellence for semiconductor design and R&D for various global companies. So all the companies you named, Chandra, all of them have R&D centers in Noida. And I think with the 400 engineering colleges that Ashok mentioned in UP and other nearby states, I think there's an immense potential to grow R&D for semiconductors, which is already existing. On the other electronic equipment, what I see is more of a manufacturing that's happening today in Noida area, like mobile phone you mentioned. and that too more of assembly. I'm not saying it's not important, it's important, but unless there are Indian or global companies also start designing those electronic equipment, that will really kickstart a different kind of activity in India, much higher value addition, much higher paying jobs, creating more intellectual property in India. And when there's more electronic equipment design-led manufacturing, then the demand for real semiconductor will also grow much more. Because today, all these mobile phone production is based on, kits coming from overseas and assembly taking place. Definitely creating jobs, and it's good for our economy, and we are exporting. But in the future, if it is more design-led manufacturing, then it creates a different set of, value addition in our economy. And that way, I think definitely Noida, Greater Noida, and as the infrastructure in UP improves with the highways, it actually will spread to other parts of the state as well. So there's an immense potential there.
Right. Vaishali?
If I can quickly add, I think I concur with what Ashok and Vivek have mentioned. Also look at what we could do with the startup ecosystem, right? Because that's also equally important, where we move beyond wafers or manufacturing. We also go a little bit more into IP creation. While there's domestic market that we can explore from a manufacturing perspective, I think from an IP creation perspective as well, especially focusing on R&D, we really need to see how do we monetize that part of the business as well. So maybe creating larger comprehensive startup policy that can sit on top of the existing semiconductor policy would be a great idea. And then, bringing in more incubation acceleration programs. As I said, how do you create the pathways to procurement for startups, make it a lot more easier as well for design-led startups who are working, fabless startups who are already working, so that everything goes hand in hand, I think would be a great addition to the existing work that's already being done.
Right.
So I'll start with the UP government electronic policy. I have read that policy, and now I can recall the one section which dedicates to the R&D. So that section, what we did is we talked to the one of the institute in Uttar Pradesh, which is Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. But we are not very happy to do with Kanpur. It's not reason because they're already a privileged institution. We don't have the much better choices at that point in time when we were discussing. But the problem need to be solved. Problem can be solved in various ways. Industry participation is very important. Each university should have a board of studies which will drive the curriculum as per the industry need, and they should appoint the board of studies member from the industry. So I've been into the member from last 2 years, 2-3 universities. I'm board of studies member. So those kind of arrangement should be there. More participation from the industry should come, and that will drive the education system in terms of the industry need. And second thing is the colleges which are in UP, which are not having access to those facility, some hub and spoke kind of model need to be adapted, whether, for example, an IIT Kanpur like institution or MNIT, those kind of institutions should be set up as a hub, and the other institutions should be connected to them for research and development. DLI schemes can also be used for that. So, and there is a chip to startup scheme from the government. You talked about the IP creation. If there is a possibility, if DY Patil University of Pune can get that, why not Indian universities can get? UP universities can get that. So those are the points which we need to work.
Great. On that note, thank you all very much for your very valuable insights. Can we have a round of applause? Thank you very much. Thank you for your insights, and hopefully we will see more investments pouring in from all of you, not just in India, but also in Uttar Pradesh.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, moving on, if the semiconductor mission is about building for the long term, then the real question becomes, how do we prepare the next generation to lead it? This next phase isn't just about fabs and factories. It's about partnerships and pathways that turn ambition into ability, because building a strong semiconductor ecosystem begins with skill minds as much as advanced manufacturing. From talent pipelines and research ecosystems to startup enablement and advanced skilling, the future of India's semiconductor story will be shaped by the foundations being laid right now. So to dive into this crucial conversation on next-gen ISM, I invite Dr. Sushil Pal, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, with a huge round of applause. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. We had three very interesting sessions. Two from the UP government perspective, where we had the IT minister as well as the chief advisor to the UP CM. And then we had an industry session where we heard out how India has really come a long way when it comes to semiconductors from key players like Micron, Keynes, as well as other industry bodies as well. But if I can get your perspective as someone who has this crucial electronics portfolio with the government of India, take us through, ISM-1, the big leaps that we have seen with respect to electronics manufacturing since 2020-21, and what can we expect in the next 3 to 4 years? Because when we started this, there was a lot of skepticism. There was a lot of gyan that why is India focusing so much on manufacturing? We should double down on services, which has always been India's inherent strength. But if you look at the success India has had with Apple, if you look at the fresh wave of investments that's coming in, it clearly shows that we have made a lot of strides. So give us your perspective, sir, as someone who's driving this policy.
Thank you, Chandra. Government of India's focus, first of all, let me, just one sec.
Yeah.
First of all, the government is highly committed and a great believer that, the semiconductor and the electronic industry is as such a foundational industry. And because electronics presently actually embed almost everything which we use, and it will further get embedded beyond, within our life and around our life with more and more IoTs coming in. So with that focus, I think the electronic manufacturing journey has to be seen in actually two pillars, one for the non-semiconductor pillar and other is semiconductor pillar. When it comes to the non-semiconductor part, that's when we began our PLIs for the large-scale manufacturing and PLI for IT hardware. The large-scale focused on the mobile manufacturing and the IT hardware focused on the 5 target segment, which includes laptop, tablets, AIOs, servers, etc. So the idea was to create the scale at the assembly level. And when I say assembly level, often people demean this, but assembly also forms a very essential part of the manufacturing, I think. And if you look at the assembly in many of the SMT lines, and they are pretty complex, and they're also pretty, heavy on the great creators of the job, right? So, and now with these two schemes, we've actually achieved a lot. We have achieved the number of players. We have achieved a scale in the EMS business as of now. And even in the IT hardware, I think we have come up, we have a few Indian brands which have actually come up in the server space. Coming to the semiconductor part, I think semiconductor pillar, the government launched the ISM 1.0 with a clear focus to create the capability for manufacturing of the chip, which include the fabrication as well as the ATMP. And it has been very heartening journey in the 3-4 years, and the 10 proposals have been approved, as you all know. But
yeah,
what is to be noted that, the variety of the proposals, right? Out of these, you got one fabric, CMOS fab, which is a pure silicon carbide, pure silicon CMOS fab, which is a silicon chip fabrication. The other is a silicon carbide fab, which caters to the power and the RF electronics. And then you got a one advanced packaging, which is a proposal of a 3D glass, which is a highly advanced and a heterogeneous packaging. That's one of its kind proposal. In fact, the first one, which will be coming up and setting up the plant here, which is more of a panel-based heterogeneous packaging. Then you got a wafer level packaging, the one which is coming to the UP is also a very advanced level, wafer level packaging of display ICs. You got one memory Micron, and then we have 5 proposals which are a regular ATMP ones. So with these variety and with the, I think the journey so far has been highly fruitful. If you look at the plain numbers, I think from 2014 or maybe 2017, 18, or rather maybe 19, 20 when the PLI was launched, to the present time, I think we have been growing at a year of almost 20% in terms of the electronic production. We are presently approximately 138 billion, and exports similarly also have been growing at a more than 20% over the years. So.
Right. In fact, I think ISM 1.0 had a 76,000 crore outlay, and you've approved 10 major projects worth 1.6 lakh crore across 6 states. But sir, I think everybody wants to know about India's Semiconductor Mission 2.0. I think METI Secretary Krishnan said some weeks ago at Semicon India that, we are in the final stages of drafting this. Any more details that you can share, sir? What can we expect in the second phase in terms of outlay? There are various numbers going around in the market, but anything that you can share with us in terms of its ambition and scope?
I mean, as a bureaucrat, it's not my, business to announce a policy or to announce a budget number before it is actually announced by the government. But then, yes, as the Secretary Sir said, and even as Honorable Prime Minister in Semicon conference clearly announced that the intention of the government to bring Semicon 2.0 or ISM 2.0, and which is important to actually create the momentum which has been created. This is it's a marathon industry. I think you cannot commit an investment of $10 billion at one point in time and suddenly and then shut off the support later on. The world over, in any part of the country, if you look at that, it has been heavily supported by the government because of the nature of the industry as such. I mean, if you look at our neighboring country, I think there's a big fund which comes in 3 phases, almost more than $100 billion, which is kind of declared in the paper, but then whatever not, we don't even know of. So, I mean, but similarly for the US, you got almost $60 billion. For the Japan also, supporting 2 highly advanced fab for $40 billion. So that's the kind of support which has been, and remember, those are the countries, which have a very highly mature semiconductor ecosystem already in place. So, and keeping that thing in mind, as I said, Honorable Prime Minister has already announced the intention. We are in active consultation with the stakeholder, and yes, it's work in progress, but I think you'll get the details soon. The larger focus is to move beyond the fabs and the ATMP plants to focus more and more on the ecosystem play, to focus and more on the chips, to focus and more on the modules, which are the very low-hanging fruit, but which actually create the demand for the Indian chips. So those are the finer points, I think, and focus more on the R&D as well. So
right. At least in terms of timeline, 2026, early 2026, we'll hear about this. I mean, we're already in the last month of the year. Okay. So, India, I mean, if I look at the projects that have been sanctioned so far, India has only one mega fab under construction, which is coming up in Gujarat, the tie-up with TSMC. While China has 44, I think the US has 15 fabs. Most of India's current projects focus on mature nodes rather than, the cutting-edge 5nm, 3nm production. Given global market trends favoring advanced nodes, what's METI's strategy to sort of transition Indian facilities towards higher node capabilities?
I think it sounds very fancy always to talk about the higher nodes, right? 2 nanometer and 5 nanometer. But if you look at the demand in terms of the volume and the value, the mature nodes about 28 nanometer and below. I mean, that's 7 and 28, 45, 60, 55, and 90, 110. They itself constitute almost 70% of our total demand, right? In terms of the volume. In terms of the value, they constitute almost 40% of the total value. Yes, and the highly advanced node, that is the one which is below 10 nanometer, they constitute 50% of the value, but in terms of the volume, they constitute only maybe 20% or so. But then, that being said, we should also look at the complexity of manufacturing highly advanced nodes. I think it's not easy. Even the most advanced countries, they're actually finding it hard to maintain the yield level which is needed for these and the kind of investment. So in terms, the kind of investment which go into these is almost 4 times the investment which would go into a 28 nanometer node. So in terms of the investment, in terms of the complexity needed, in terms of the yield which is required to be maintained, and also I think I'm not a technical guy in this industry, but if you ask anyone whether the performance promises which are made for the 2 nanometer or a 5 nanometer, they're actually proven on the ground. I think that's still doubtful. It is not on the same level which is already proven for 28 nanometer. So having said that, not that we have no plans, we do have plans, but then first of all, it's important to build the capacity, to build the capability to operate a mature node, let's say 28 nanometer. And then from there on to take a next leap. So I think, as you said, that like we must reach the moon first before we launch a mission to the Mars, right? So once we have that capability, I'm sure with the R&D capability being enabled by the companies already approved like Tata's and maybe other R&D efforts, I think we will aim towards the higher notes. So that's the plan.
You know, you mentioned how we should focus on the entire ecosystem, not just on one part of it. So even the previous panel spoke a lot about India's chip design talent. In fact, India is home to 20% of the world's chip design engineers. Yet, you know, the chiplet segment remains in infancy. How is METI leveraging the design talent advantage through the DLI scheme and partnerships like the IBM India Semiconductor Mission collaboration on advanced packaging and chiplet technology? If, you know, you can give us some perspective on India's first commercially viable chiplet-based products.
That's a very good question, I think, and that should be the focus of our, next plan whenever we come to. I think the world is actually, there is a strong trend to move to the chiplet design, moving away from the monolithic SoCs to more modular, die-cast chips which are connected to each other, because it offers you more flexibility, it offers you higher yield, it offers you, faster time to the market, right? So, and it's also cheaper to build. To acquire these capabilities, it's something, you need two things, right? I think you need to have your own chips, and the second thing, you need advanced packaging technologies here in India. As was said by our colleagues, in the earlier panel, that we have a lot of design engineers, but then I think those all are making for the MNCs, right? We don't have. I think not that the chiplet are not being done here. I think chiplets design are being done, but those are being done by the MNC. I mean, the import or the purport of the question, I understand, when do we have an Indian, so there's a strong funnel being created for the Indian chips being designed here. Apart from like under DLI itself, we got 24 companies already approved, and they have actually designing the chips for a lot of applications, be it a GPU accelerator, be it RF or a broadband or a baseband communication, and lots of other applications, and under C2S program as well, which is although a skill building effort, but I think a couple of days back, Honorable Minister handed over the fabricated chips to a lot of MTech and the PhD students from the university. So there's already funnel being created for Indian design chips already in there. So once we have the Indian design chips already in place, and then with the R&D efforts from the approved company Micron representing here, I think I'm hoping that we will soon get the high bandwidth memory R&D center here in India. And once we get those, those advanced packaging efforts, and hopefully with the R&D support being extended to in ISM 2.0, we will be able to get those. So in my view, I think in 2 years' time, we should be having Indian design chiplets going into the chiplets, but then fabricated abroad, but packaged in the country. I think.
Right. Final 1 minute, sir. Just want to get your closing thoughts. Now, while India has announced ambitions to reach China's scale within a decade, established players in Taiwan, South Korea and China currently dominate the market. So what are METI's milestones for the next, say, 3 to 5 years? How does the ministry assess India's competitive advantages beyond government subsidies?
I think it wouldn't be fair, honestly, to compare ourselves with the very established players like China and Taiwan. I mean, they have been in this industry for almost 4 or 5 decades, Yeah. But what is to be noted that the commitment of the government and the strong focus of the government toward the sector, and we have seen the progress in ISM 1.0, and 2.0 will be coming in the next 3 to 5 years. Our focus will be first to kind of execute. The first will be on the execution and the implementation of the project all be approved. Making sure that they have a proper offtake and they survive the business, that's also very important. And the second would be definitely to create and support more ecosystem, so that not only the fabs and the components, the fabs and the ATMPs, but also the equipments and the supply chain and their materials, they all shift here. And that actually, I'm hoping that this ecosystem will create more synergy and get in more investments. As regards the competitive advantage, I think, apart from, it's often, we are a huge talent pool, right? I think, we're a talent hub, as you all know, with almost 1 million engineers, annually. And we're not only a huge talent hub in terms of the number, we're also the cheapest one. So we actually the kind of when the GCs, they operate here because because it is profitable for them to source engineers from here, right? So we apart from the design or talent engineers available at such affordable prices for these companies, we're also cheap in terms of we become very competitive in terms of the power. We are and also the many states supporting the investment efforts through the cheaper land or land lease agreements. So these, along with the fact that we're a country which is fourth largest economy, and every company would definitely want to stay in a market or stay in a country which they see growing at almost 8% annually. So that's one strong push, and definitely the leadership at the central level, which definitely provides a very stable and very tech-savvy government, and which I'm sure the technology company find it very heartening that the government is approachable, it listens to them, it responds to them.
Right. On that note, thank you very much, sir. And here's wishing you the best for the Mega AI Impact Summit, which also your ministry is executing in February. A huge round of applause for Mr. Sushilta. All right, moving on from the center back to the state again, and a slight segue away from semiconductor to a sector that UP has been traditionally strong in. Now, agriculture is the backbone of Uttar Pradesh, and technology is now redefining how the sector grows, markets and reaches the world. From smarter supply chains to data-driven farming and export-ready practices, innovation is transforming every state of the agricultural journey. These interventions are not just improving productivity, but also empowering farmers, enhancing sustainability and connecting UP's agriculture to global markets. So by integrating tech with traditional expertise, the state is setting new benchmarks for modern agriculture. To discuss these tech interventions in UP for enhancing agriculture, please welcome Mr. Brajesh Kumar from Moneycontrol, and to share the government's vision and initiatives, please welcome Shri Dinesh Pratap Singh, MOS Independent Charge, Horticulture, Agriculture Marketing, Agriculture Foreign Trade and Agricultural Exports, Government of Uttar Pradesh. Thank you very much, sir.
दिनेश जी, सबसे पहले तो आपका स्वागत है इस मंच पर, और आपने देखा ही मनी कंट्रोल का जो ये फोरम है, यूपी टेक्नेक्स्ट की हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं, और खासतौर पे डेडिकेटेड है ये इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड सेमीकंडक्टर थीम के साथ। एग्रीकल्चर ऑब्वियसली एक्सपोर्ट से लेकर मार्केटिंग तक, हॉर्टिकल्चर, देश का सबसे बड़ा राज्य, एक समय की एग्रो इकोनॉमी, अब वहां पर हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं सेमीकंडक्टर की। आपसे मैं समझना चाहता हूं कि जब बात इतने अधिक टेक्नोलॉजिकल एडवांसमेंट की हो रही है, यूपी नई छलांग लगातार भर रहा है, उसमें जो आपका सेक्टर है, जिस विभाग के आप मंत्री हैं, इंडिपेंडेंट चार्ज है आपके पास, एग्रो मार्केटिंग से लेके, एक्सपोर्ट से लेके, फॉरेन ट्रेड से लेके, हॉर्टिकल्चर तक का, इसमें टेक्नोलॉजी के लेवल पर आप लोग क्या नया कर रहे हैं जिससे कि इस राज्य का जो आम आदमी है, जो किसान है, उसकी समृद्धि बढ़े, और जो एक बड़ा गोल आप लोगों ने लिया है 1 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी का, उस दिशा में आप लोग आगे बढ़ सकें?
सबसे पहले तो मैं आपको धन्यवाद देता हूं कि आपने मुझे अवसर दिया, और उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार में मंत्री होने के नाते तकनीक के क्षेत्र से जुड़े बहुत सारे लोगों का अभिनंदन करता हूं जो आपके साथ यहां पर बैठे हुए हैं, जुड़े हुए हैं। निसंदेह तकनीक हमें आगे बढ़ाने में हर क्षेत्र में काम आती है, और मैं समझता हूं कृषि और औद्योगिक क्षेत्र में भी अगर ऐसे लोग जुड़ जाएंगे तो उत्तर प्रदेश की सरकार को सहयोग मिलेगा, राज्य के किसानों की आय भी बढ़ जाएगी। तो मैं समझता हूं कि अगर हम तुलना करते हैं दूसरे क्षेत्रों में जितना तकनीक विकसित हुई है, जैसे मैं मानता हूं स्वास्थ्य के क्षेत्र में तकनीक विकसित हुई अथवा संचार के क्षेत्र में विकसित हुई। पहले हमारे पास वैद्य जी होते थे और नाड़ी पकड़ लेते थे, बिल्कुल। आज हम आंख और आई स्पेशलिस्ट भी, आंख के भी 5 और चीजें होंगी जिनके भी अलग अलग स्पेशलिस्ट हो गए। तो क्या, जैसे मान लो संचार के क्षेत्र में पहले हम पत्र लिखते थे, तो मेरे फूफा जी होते थे बंबई में, तो मैं पता लिखता था, आज भी मुझे याद है बेल बाई बेल जी, सैनिटरी प्लाट नंबर 196, रूम नंबर 31, साइन कोलीवाड़ा, मुंबई। मैं इतना लिखता था तो मेरी चिट्ठी पहुंचती थी। आज मैं 1 मिनट में फोन दबाता हूं और हमारा अपने सभी रिश्तेदारों से बात हो जाती है। तो तकनीक के क्षेत्र में जितना विकास अन्य क्षेत्रों में हुआ है, शायद एग्रीकल्चर में अभी स्कोप है, हॉर्टिकल्चर में भी स्कोप है। मैं बहुत सारे लोग जो यहाँ उपस्थित हैं उनसे सहयोग की अपेक्षा करता हूँ। राज्य सरकार आपका स्वागत करती है, अभिनंदन करती है। हम लोगों ने बहुत तकनीक के क्षेत्र में अच्छे काम अपने किसानों के हितों के लिए किए हैं, लेकिन अभी बहुत आवश्यकता है, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है कि हमने अपनी फसलों के सिंचाई के लिए विकसित किया है। हम लोग ड्रिप से सिंचाई करा रहे हैं, स्प्रिंकलर लगाते हैं, लेकिन अगर थोड़ा और आगे जाएं तो वो ड्रिप हम अपने घर में सो भी रहे हों और ड्रिप चल भी जाए और बंद भी हो जाए। इसकी शायद आवश्यकता आप लोगों के माध्यम से मुझे है कि ऐसी तकनीक विकसित की जाए, और बहुत जगह पर है कि हमारा ड्रिप सिंचाई का यंत्र अपने कंप्यूटर से चल जाए, अपने मोबाइल से चल जाए, और जितनी आवश्यकता है हमारे फसलों की सिंचाई की उतनी फसलें सिंचाई भी हो जाए और हम बिना चलाए, बिना बंद किए अपने आप हमारे खेती की सिंचाई में हो जाए। तो ऐसी तकनीक अगर आपके माध्यम से हमको मिलेगी तो मैं स्वागत जरूर करूंगा, और राज्य के किसानों की इससे बेहतर सिंचाई कम पानी में जरूर हो पाएगी।
निश्चित तौर पर हम इसके लिए प्लेटफॉर्म बनने का काम करेंगे, जो आपने ये बात कही है। लेकिन मैं आपसे समझना चाहता हूं कि चूंकि आप एग्री एक्सपोर्ट को भी देखते हैं, क्यूआर कोड, जैसे कि आजकल मोबाइल का आपने नाम लिया, मोबाइल के जरिए हम क्यूआर कोड स्कैन करते हैं और कोई भी प्रोडक्ट खरीद लेते हैं। आपने जो है, जो मैं आपके मिनिस्ट्री के बारे में, डिपार्टमेंट के बारे में पढ़ रहा था कि उसमें आप लोगों ने क्यूआर कोड, जो खासतौर पे जो आर्टिकल्स जो हैं जो कि आप विदेश में एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, वो सारी की सारी कर रहे हैं। जीआई टैगिंग एक अलग चीजें हैं, उसको और विशिष्ट बनाने के लिए कर रहे हैं। ऐसे कौन कौन से इनिशिएटिव आपके डिपार्टमेंट की तरफ से लिए गए हैं ताकि एग्रीकल्चर को एक निहायत जो है देसी ढंग से चलने वाला, जो एक छवि रही है कि गांव का आदमी बिल्कुल जो है देसी तरीके से हर चीज करता है, वह जो है करता है, वो मॉडर्नाइज्ड और टेक्नोलॉजी का फायदा लेके उसकी जो रेवेन्यू, उसकी इनकम बढ़ाने का काम कैसे हो रहा है, इसके बारे में थोड़ा आप बताएं।
देखिए, जितना अधिकतम प्रयास हमारी सरकारों का और हमारे प्रशासन का था, हम लोगों ने उसके माध्यम से तकनीक को विकसित करके सीड्स डेवलप करना, सीड्स लिंक डेवलप करना, अच्छे गुणवत्तापरक पौधे दे पाना, बिना रासायनिक खादों के पौध कैसे तैयार किया जा सकता है, कम मिट्टी में कैसे तैयार किया जा सकता है, ऐसी बहुत सारे हम लोगों ने सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस उत्तर प्रदेश के 75 जनपदों में, हर जनपद में 2-2 सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस स्थापित किए। उत्तर प्रदेश में गुणवत्तापरक पौध दे पाने की क्षमता 2022 में लगभग 78 लाख पौध हम राज्य के किसानों को दे पाते थे, और तकनीक के माध्यम से ही हमने प्रयास किया, इजराइल से सहयोग लिया, और उन लोगों ने हमारे यहाँ हर जनपद में 2-2 सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस स्थापित किए, जिनके माध्यम से अब हम आज की तारीख में 29 करोड़ पौध 3 वर्ष के भीतर तकनीक ने इतना हमको दिया कि हम 75 लाख 78 लाख पौध के बदले 29 करोड़ पौध राज्य के किसानों को दे पा रहे हैं। ये तकनीक की ही ताकत है जिसके बदौलत हमने इतना विकसित किया, और मैं आगे भी अपेक्षा करूंगा कि जहां भी हमारी टीम्स जाती हैं तकनीक के क्षेत्र में, जो देश बेहतर काम कर रहे हैं और भारत के भीतर जो राज्य बेहतर काम कर रहे हैं, उनसे तकनीक हम लोग ले करके और अपने राज्य में विकसित करके राज्य के किसानों की समृद्धि बढ़ाने का हम लोग प्रयास करें। निसंदेह हमारे पास आवश्यकता अभी है कि हम अपनी उपज की सेल्फ लाइफ कैसे बढ़ाएं। इसके लिए तकनीक की आवश्यकता है। अगर आम पक के तैयार होता है तो 10 दिन 12 दिन में खराब होने लगता है। कोई तकनीक विकसित हो जाए जिससे सेल्फ लाइफ बढ़ जाए। हम चूंकि लैंडलॉक्ड स्टेट हैं, हमारे पास वाटरवेज नहीं है, तो हमको महंगा किराया देकर के दुनिया की बाजारों में अपनी उपज ले जानी पड़ती है। तो हमको सबसे आवश्यक है कि हमारी उपज की सेल्फ लाइफ कैसे बढ़े, और सेल्फ लाइफ अगर बढ़ गई तो हम दुनिया की बाजारों तक अपनी उपज को ले जाने में सफल होंगे, और अपनी उपज का अधिक मूल्य भी हम लेकर के मूल्य संवर्धन भी करेंगे राज्य के किसानों की उपज का। तो इसमें हम जरूर आज के आपके इस माध्यम से जो भी तकनीक के क्षेत्र में लोग यहाँ पर उपस्थित हैं, कंपनियां जो उपस्थित हैं, उनसे जरूर आग्रह करूंगा कि इस तरह के क्षेत्र में हमारे राज्य का सहयोग आपसे अपेक्षित है।
अगले कुछ हफ्ते में जेवर एयरपोर्ट का उद्घाटन होने वाला है और माना यह जा रहा है कि जेवर के ऑपरेशनल हो जाने के बाद से जो एक्सपोर्ट जो है उसको काफी जो है ट्रिगर मिलेगा। और यूपी में जैसा कि मैं फिगर्स देख रहा था, हॉर्टिकल्चर से लेके एग्रीकल्चर तक हर जगह जो है आपका प्रोडक्शन बढ़ा है। एक्सपोर्ट के बढ़ाने में जेवर जो है आपकी कितनी बड़ी मदद करेगा? और चूंकि आपके प्रोडक्ट्स जो हैं, चूंकि हम मान लीजिए मलिहाबादी आम की बात कर लेते हैं, आपने अभी हाल ही में चर्चा जब चल रही थी आपने कहा कि जो है फूल को जो है आप लोग उगाने के लिए, चूंकि डोमेस्टिक डिमांड बहुत ज्यादा है, ओवरसीज डिमांड भी है, इन सब चीजों को कैसे आप लोग उसमें टेक्नोलॉजी का इस्तेमाल करते हुए उसको प्रमोट करने जा रहे हैं, उसको जो है ज्यादा से ज्यादा एक्सपोर्ट करने जा रहे हैं, उसमें जेवर कितना बड़ा ट्रिगर होगा ये मैं आपसे समझना चाहता हूं।
देखिए, उत्तर प्रदेश के लिए जेवर एक्सपोर्ट के क्षेत्र में लाइफलाइन है, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है। हम अगर आज की तारीख में एक्सपोर्ट को किसानों की उपज का निर्यात करने का प्रयास करते हैं, तो जैसे अगर हम आम ले जाना चाहें दुनिया के दूसरे देशों में, तो 500 रुपए किलो खर्च हो जाता है, क्योंकि हम अभी जो कुछ उपज ले जा रहे हैं वो जहाज में उस स्थान पे ले जा रहे हैं जहां से लोग बैग लेके जा रहे हैं। और यही चीज अगर एयरपोर्ट हमारा जो फंक्शनल हो जाएगा जेवर का, तो पूरा कार्गो जहाज यहां से भरेगा और दुनिया की दूसरी बाजार में उतार देगा। तो निसंदेह हम कम भाड़े में अपनी उपज को दुनिया की बाजारों तक पहुंचा लेंगे। तो निसंदेह जेवर हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि है और उससे हमारे राज्य के हर क्षेत्र का निर्यात बढ़ेगा और अच्छी मूल्य हमारे राज्य के किसानों को प्राप्त होगा।
दिनेश जी, जब नोएडा में लोग ट्रेवल करते हैं और खासतौर पे ब्लू लाइन में, तो जो आखिरी मेट्रो स्टेशन है जहां पर कि ब्लू लाइन खत्म हो जाती है, वो नोएडा इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सिटी के तौर पे जानी जाती है। और अभी हम लोग इस समिट में जब बात कर रहे थे कि यूपी की सेमीकंडक्टर जर्नी की फॉक्सकॉन के साथ जो आप लोगों का अरेंजमेंट हुआ है, राज्य जो है देश में सेमीकंडक्टर के फील्ड में बड़ी छलांग जो है मारने की तैयारी कर रहा है। जो इसका कंपटीशन है आंध्र से है, तेलंगाना से है, ये जो है कॉम्पिटिटिव बने रहने के लिए, और चूंकि चैलेंज भी है यूपी में क्योंकि पॉपुलेशन का लोड काफी है। बाकी राज्य जिस तरीके से फ्री में लैंड दे सकते हैं आप लोग नहीं दे सकते, लेकिन आप लोग इंसेंटिवाइज जरूर कर रहे हैं। कितना रियलिस्टिक आप देख रहे हैं यूपी को, जो देश का सबसे बड़ा राज्य है, देश का सेमीकंडक्टर हब बनने की तरफ जाते हुए?
देखिए, हमारी डबल इंजन की सरकारें बड़ी तेजी के साथ, आप देश में कुछ राज्यों के आप नाम ले रहे हैं, हमारा राज्य मेरे ही हिसाब से आज की तारीख में किसी भी राज्य से पीछे तकनीक के क्षेत्र में भी नहीं है। थोड़ा बहुत ठीक है, आप जब दूसरे देश से आप तुलना करेंगे तो मैं मान सकता हूं, लेकिन अगर भारत के भीतर दूसरे राज्यों से तुलना करेंगे तो हम कोई खास पीछे नहीं है। हमारा प्रयास है। और रही बात, आपने जेवर की बात कही, मेरी एक बात जरूर समझ में आई है और ध्यानाकर्षण भी कराऊंगा जो लोग यहाँ पर उपस्थित हैं। जेवर एयरपोर्ट से पहले आसपास हमको एक टेस्टिंग ट्रीटमेंट पार्क की आवश्यकता होती है कि दुनिया में किस गुणवत्ता की उपज हम ले जा सकते हैं, उसके हिसाब का सर्टिफिकेशन चाहिए होगा कि हमारे राज्य की उपज जब दुनिया की बाजारों में जाएगी तो हम उसको सर्टिफाई करके भेजेंगे उसके अनुकूल। तो इसके लिए हमको तकनीक की आवश्यकता जरूर है। इस पर हमारी सरकार का प्रयास बड़ी तेजी से चल रहा है कि जेवर के आसपास हम एक अच्छा सा टेस्टिंग ट्रीटमेंट पार्क के रूप में, जहां अच्छी पैकेजिंग भी हो सकती है, अच्छा सॉर्टिंग एडिंग करके जो है दुनिया के बाजारों की आवश्यकता के अनुरूप हम वहां पर अपनी उपज को, अपने राज्य के किसानों की उपज को पहुंचा सकें। तो इसमें कुछ तकनीक की आवश्यकता जरूर होगी। तो मैं अपेक्षा करूंगा आपके माध्यम से कि जो भी कंपनियां इस क्षेत्र में कुछ कर सकती हैं, हमने भूमि की उपलब्धता का प्रयास हमारी सरकार के द्वारा किया जा रहा है और एक बड़ा टेस्टिंग ट्रीटमेंट पार्क की स्थापना हम लोग करने जा रहे हैं। उसमें बहुत सारे ऐसी चीजों की आवश्यकता होगी, तो जो कंपनियां इसके इच्छुक हों, हमारी सरकार उनका अभिनंदन, उनका स्वागत करती है।
दिनेश जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आप मनी कंट्रोल के इस मंच पर आए और आपने यूपी टेकनेक्स्ट समिट में जो राज्य के इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड सेमीकंडक्टर की तरफ जो छलांग है उसके बारे में चर्चा करते हुए एग्रीकल्चर में किस तरीके से टेक्नोलॉजिकल इंटरवेंशंस जो है वो एक मेजर ट्रिगर साबित हो सकते हैं राज्य की आय बढ़ाने के लिए, किसानों की आय बढ़ाने के लिए, और जो लोग भी कृषि से जुड़े हुए हैं उनकी आय को बढ़ाने के लिए। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे इस कार्यक्रम में आने के लिए।
very much, sir. Brajesh, sir, if I can request you to stay back on stage for the next session. Now, at the heart of India's digital transformation are the grassroots communities that drive local economics. Empowering them with access to technology, digital tools and financial inclusion is key to building a more connected, resilient and inclusive economy. This session will explore how Uttar Pradesh is harnessing digital solutions to strengthen grassroots participations in the economy, bridging gaps between policy and practice, and ensure that the benefits of the digital revolution reach every corner of the state. And to share the government's initiatives and vision, please welcome Shri JPS Rathod, MOS Independent Charge, Cooperative Government of Uttar Pradesh. Please give him a huge round of applause. Welcome, sir.
आपका स्वागत है मनी कंट्रोल के इस मंच पर।
धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपको।
और एक समय हम लोग यूनिवर्सिटी के छात्र हैं साथ साथ।
हाँ, पुरानी यादें भी ताजा करते रहिए थोड़ी थोड़ी।
लेकिन आज जो है मैं बता दूं जो तमाम लोग इस हॉल के अंदर हैं कि हमेशा ये बात होती है कि बहुत पढ़े लिखे, खास तौर पे जो टेक्नोलॉजी सेक्टर से जुड़े हुए लोग हैं वह जो है पॉलिटिक्स में नहीं आते। जेपीएस राठौर जी एक एग्जाम्पल हैं। आपने आईटी बीएचयू से बीटेक और एमटेक करने के बाद से राजनीति में कदम रखा। हालांकि यूनिवर्सिटी में जब थे तभी वह बीएचयू के छात्र संघ के अध्यक्ष बन गए थे और वहां से जो आपकी जर्नी शुरू हुई, आज आप उत्तर प्रदेश में सहकार के मंत्री हैं, जो मिनिस्टर फॉर कोऑपरेटिव जो हैं वो हैं। और उस भूमिका में
और इसमें ब्रजेश जी का भी बहुत बड़ा योगदान है मुझको इस क्षेत्र में लाने में।
मैं सबसे शुरुआत करना चाहूंगा, क्योंकि कोऑपरेटिव एक ऐसा सेक्टर है जिसमें कि हम मानते हैं कि जो गरीब से गरीब आदमी है उसके को एक साथ इकट्ठा करते हुए सहकार की भावना के साथ हम कैसे जो है उसके जीवन स्तर को बढ़ा सकते हैं, समाज का ओवरऑल विकास कर सकते हैं। और ये बिल्कुल ग्रासरूट की बात होती है। तो जो इस सेशन का थीम भी है कि हम लोग ग्रासरूट को कैसे एम्पावर करें ताकि जो है डिजिटल इकोनॉमी जो है वो हमारी लगातार बढ़ सके, उसकी साइज बढ़ सके। आपसे मैं समझना चाहता हूं कि जब आपने कोऑपरेटिव मिनिस्ट्री का चार्ज लिया और उस समय जो स्थिति थी और आपने क्या इस तरह के जो है टेक्नोलॉजिकल इंटरवेंशंस किए जिसके जरिए एक तो ट्रांसपेरेंट हुआ बस डिपार्टमेंट की फंक्शनिंग, कोऑपरेटिव की फंक्शनिंग, और दूसरी जो है उसकी वजह से इफेक्टिवनेस बढ़ी और आम आदमी को ग्रासरूट पर फायदा हुआ।
ऐसा है कि कोऑपरेटिव एक आर्थिक मॉडल है विकास का और इसमें असीम संभावनाएं हैं। और माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी और माननीय गृह व सहकारिता मंत्री अमित शाह जी लगातार इसमें एक नया और व्यापक रूप देने के लिए काम कर रहे हैं और नए नए ढंग से कोऑपरेटिव में छोटी छोटी पूंजी कुछ लोगों के द्वारा इकट्ठी करके बड़ी पूंजी बनाना, फिर उसके बाद उसके माध्यम से बड़ा काम खड़ा करना और उसके बाद पूंजीपतियों को एक तरीके से टक्कर देना। तो ये कोऑपरेटिव का अपना मॉडल है। और कोऑपरेटिव एक व्यवस्था नहीं, कोऑपरेटिव एक भावना है जहां एक भाव के साथ लोग जुड़ते हैं, छोटा छोटा अमाउंट कंट्रीब्यूट करते हैं और खुद ही उस व्यवस्था को, उस जो भी खड़ा करते हैं तंत्र, उसको चलाने का भी काम करते हैं। जिस तरह से कारपोरेट एक व्यवस्थित व्यवस्था है, इस तरीके से यहाँ पर एक भावनात्मक तरीके से लोग जुड़ते हैं और उसके बाद स्वयं एक व्यवस्था बनती चली जाती है। उत्तर प्रदेश में कोऑपरेटिव की स्थिति उतनी ठीक नहीं थी। अब पूर्व के लोगों को कुछ कहना कोसना मुझे लगता ठीक नहीं है, लेकिन माननीय मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ जी के नेतृत्व में यहाँ पर उत्तर प्रदेश में कोऑपरेटिव भी एक नई दिशा, नई गति और नई ऊंचाई को प्राप्त करने जा रहा है। जहां तक आपने कहा कि टेक्नोलॉजी के इंटरवेंशन के किस तरीके से करते हैं, तो एक छोटी सी बात मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी जिस समय प्रधानमंत्री नहीं थे और पार्टी की तरफ से प्रधानमंत्री के कैंडिडेट घोषित कर दिए गए थे, तो उस समय उनसे एक पत्रकार ने प्रश्न पूछा था कि आप कहते हैं कि इस देश में हम भ्रष्टाचार को खत्म कर देंगे, तो वो कौन सी ऐसी जादू की छड़ी आपके पास जो आप घुमा देंगे और देश में भ्रष्टाचार खत्म हो जाएगा। तो उन्होंने यही कहा था कि हम देश में टेक्नोलॉजी के माध्यम से भ्रष्टाचार को खत्म करेंगे। उसके बाद जब आपको ध्यान में होगा कि 15 अगस्त 2014 को लाल किले की प्राचीर से उन्होंने घोषणा की थी कि 31 दिसंबर 2014 तक 20 करोड़ जनधन योजना के माध्यम से गरीबों के जीरो बैलेंस के साथ खाते खोले जाएंगे। इस जनधन योजना की क्या ताकत है, मुझे लगता है कि बहुत से लोग समझ नहीं सकते। इसने भ्रष्टाचार को बहुत हद तक नियंत्रित करने का काम किया है और नीचे तक उस जो गरीब तक पैसा पहुंचाने का काम किया है। कभी राजीव गांधी जी कहते थे 100 रुपया हम सेंटर से भेजते हैं तो नीचे पहुंचते पहुंचते केवल 15 रुपए पहुंचता है और 85 रुपए बिचौलिए खा जाते हैं। आज प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी टेक्नोलॉजी के माध्यम से किसी गरीब किसान के खाते में, सम्मानित किसान के खाते में बटन दबाकर 2000 रुपया भेजते हैं तो पूरा 2000 रुपया उसके खाते में पहुंचता है। 1 रुपया भी कोई बिचौलिया खा नहीं सकता। ये टेक्नोलॉजी की देन है।
मैं
उसी प्रकार से अभी जैसे आपने कहा कि किस तरीके से टेक्नोलॉजी, हमारे पास शिकायतें आ रही थी कि हम जैसे कि कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज के माध्यम से फर्टिलाइजर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का काम करते हैं, यूरिया, डीएपी, गेहूं, धान की खरीद का काम करते हैं, दलहन तिलहन की खरीद का काम करते हैं, क्रॉप लोन का वितरण का भी काम करते हैं। तो शिकायत आ रही थी कि यहाँ पर ओवर रेटिंग हो रही है, कुछ पैसा ज़्यादा लिया जा रहा है। यानी यूरिया की एक जो बैग है वो 266 रुपये 50 पैसा है, तो उसका कभी कह देता कि हमारे पास चेंज नहीं है, तो उस नाते कुछ 10-5 रुपया ज़्यादा ले लिया है। मैंने जैसे समस्या आई टेक्नोलॉजी से जुड़े हुए लोगों को बुलाया और पूरे प्रदेश की 7,500 समितियां हैं, वहां पर क्यूआर कोड दे दिया और क्यूआर कोड के माध्यम से गरीब किसान आज पेमेंट करता। 1 रुपया उससे अधिक नहीं लिया जा सकता, पूरा 266 रुपया 50 पैसा पेमेंट करता है, यूरिया की बोरी अपने घर ले जाता है। यह टेक्नोलॉजी की देन है।
बहुत बढ़िया। मैं आपसे ये समझना चाहता हूं, चूंकि जब आपने चार्ज लिया इस मिनिस्ट्री का, उस समय बताया जा रहा था कि बहुत सारे जिलों में जो जिला कोऑपरेटिव बैंक थे वो बंद हुए पड़े थे, भ्रष्टाचार की शिकायतें आम थी। और खासतौर पे जो हम लोग कोऑपरेटिव बैंक्स का स्ट्रक्चर देखते हैं, एक समय था पूरे देश में जबकि उसके अंदर गड़बड़ झाले बहुत रहते थे। इसको दूर करने के लिए आपने कैसे जो है टेक्नोलॉजी का इस्तेमाल किया और फिर कैसे उसको ढर्रे पे लेके आए? क्योंकि मैंने जो सुना है कि काफी बड़े पैमाने पर उसमें राजनीतिक भ्रष्टाचार भी था, जो पार्टियां जो है एक समय यहाँ पावर में थी। उस स्थिति से आप कैसे निजात पाकर आज जब हम देख रहे हैं कोऑपरेटिव सेक्टर के जो फैक्ट्स एंड फिगर्स, वो काफी इंप्रूवमेंट दिखाई दे रही है?
जी, उत्तर प्रदेश में हमारे 50 डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोऑपरेटिव बैंक्स हैं, उसकी 1260 ब्रांचेज हैं। अब ये बिल्कुल अनियंत्रित हो गई, भ्रष्टाचार के पहाड़ खड़े हो गए यहाँ पर। और रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया ने 50 में से 16 जिला सहकारी बैंकों पर मोटे मोटे ताले लगा दिए। जब मैं आया तो यहाँ पर उन 16 जिला सहकारी बैंकों को माननीय मुख्यमंत्री से चर्चा करके उनको व्यवस्थित तरीके से संचालित करने के लिए योजना बनाई और एक यहाँ कैडर अथॉरिटी उत्तर प्रदेश कोऑपरेटिव बैंक के मुख्यालय पर हमने बैठाई और उनको एक रेगुलेटरी बॉडी बनाई। उसके द्वारा पूरा मॉनिटरिंग की जा रही पर डे कि क्या इन्होंने लेन देन किया है, कितना प्रॉफिट कमाया है, क्या कर रहे हैं। तो यहाँ पर एक व्यवस्थित योजना देने का काम किया और मुझे बताते हुए हर्ष हो रहा है कि गरीब किसानों का 2100 करोड़ रुपया बकाया था, जिनकी वजह से रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया ने ताले लगा दिए थे। उन किसानों को 18 लाख किसान ऐसे प्रभावित थे, उन 18 लाख किसानों का मूलधन सूद ब्याज समेत चुकता करने का काम हमारी सरकार ने किया है और उसके बाद इन 16 जिला सहकारी बैंकों को संचालित करने का काम किया है। आज प्रसन्नता का विषय है कि वो 16 के 16 जिला सहकारी बैंक प्रॉफिट में आ गए हैं और बहुत व्यवस्थित तरीके से हमारे किसानों को सुविधाएं देने का काम कर रहे हैं।
आपके जो मुख्यमंत्री उत्तर प्रदेश के योगी आदित्यनाथ जी, उन्होंने यूपी के लिए एक बड़ा एम्बिशियस टारगेट लिया है $1 ट्रिलियन की इकोनॉमी का। कॉर्पोरेशन एक ऐसा सेक्टर है और चूंकि आपने मोदी जी की बात की, 2019 में जब सरकार बनी तो उन्होंने पहली बार एक पूरा मिनिस्ट्री जो है जो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कोऑपरेशन है उसको खड़ा किया, जिसको कि गृह मंत्री अमित शाह खुद उसको संभालते हैं। ये किस तरीके से एक बड़ा रोल प्ले कर सकता है? देश तो ठीक है, लेकिन यूपी की जो अपनी अर्थव्यवस्था में उसको धार देने में और एक बहुत ही एम्बिशियस टारगेट जो है लिया है यूपी के मुख्यमंत्री ने उसको पूरा करने में।
देखिए, माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी ने जो टारगेट लिया है, मुझे लगता है एम्बिशियस टारगेट हो सकता है, लेकिन इस टारगेट को निश्चित रूप से हमारी सरकार अचीव करेगी और अचीव ही नहीं करेगी, इससे आगे भी निकलने की संभावना है, बहुत आगे निकलने की संभावना है। क्योंकि जिस तरीके से काम हो रहा है, डेवलपमेंट के लिए क्या चाहिए? हमारी बेहतर से बेहतर रोड कनेक्टिविटी है, बहुत बेहतर उत्तर प्रदेश में रेल कनेक्टिविटी है, बहुत ही अच्छी एयर कनेक्टिविटी हो रही है। कितने एयरपोर्ट, 16 एयरपोर्ट्स हमारे चालू हो गए हैं और 21 एयरपोर्ट्स नए मतलब की तरफ हम बढ़ रहे हैं। जेवर का एयरपोर्ट अभी चालू होने जा रहा है, माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी उसका उद्घाटन करने जा रहे हैं इसी 1 महीने के भीतर। इंटरनेट कनेक्टिविटी पूरे प्रदेश में बहुत ही अच्छी तरीके से है। कुछ लोग कहते हैं कि अमेरिका धनवान है इसलिए उसकी सड़कें अच्छी हैं, तो ये कहना है कि वहां पर सड़कें अच्छी थी इसलिए अमेरिका धनवान हुआ। तो जब हमारी रोड कनेक्टिविटी अच्छी होगी, जब हमारी रेल कनेक्टिविटी अच्छी होगी, एयर कनेक्टिविटी अच्छी होगी, इंटरनेट कनेक्टिविटी अच्छी होगी, सब प्रकार की जो हमारे संचार के हर प्रकार के साधन अच्छे होंगे, इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन होगा, लोगों का आना जाना सुगम होगा, तो निश्चित रूप से हमारी जो ग्रोथ है वो बढ़ेगी। अभी हमारे मित्र एक अमेरिका से आए थे, जिस समय ग्लोबल इन्वेस्टर समिट चल रहा था, तो मैंने उनको शाम को डिनर पे बुलाया, तो वो कह रहे थे कि उन्होंने आईआईटी बीटेक से ही आईआईटी कानपुर से बीटेक करके गए, कह रहे कि जितना डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शन इंडिया में हो रहा है उतना डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शन तो अमेरिका में नहीं है। तो ये बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि हमारे देश के लिए, और उत्तर प्रदेश उसमें सबसे आगे निकलेगा। जिस तरीके से हम गाना गाते हैं, सबसे आगे हम होंगे भारतवासी, तो सबसे आगे हम होंगे उत्तर प्रदेश वासी, ये हमने तय किया हुआ है।
एक आखिरी सवाल मैं आपसे करना चाहता हूं, चूंकि आपके जैसा व्यक्ति जिसकी टेक्नोलॉजी की बैकग्राउंड है, बीटेक और एमटेक करने के बाद से बहुत कम लोग राजनीति में आते हैं। उत्तर प्रदेश जो है देश का सेमीकंडक्टर हब बनने की कोशिश कर रहा है, उसके लिए बड़े सीरियस एफर्ट्स लिए जा रहे हैं। क्या आप देखते हैं भविष्य के उत्तर प्रदेश की तस्वीर को? नोएडा हम लोग इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सिटी के तौर पर डेवलप करने की मुहिम शुरू हुई थी, अब जो है बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियों को अट्रैक्ट किया जा रहा है इस सेमीकंडक्टर के फील्ड में आने के लिए। ये जो कंपटीशन है जो बाकी राज्यों से, उसके मुकाबले यूपी का इस सिचुएशन में है कि वो पूरी तरीके से इनकैश कर सके और जो है इसको सेमीकंडक्टर का हब बना सके उत्तर प्रदेश को, जो यूपी का जो सरकार है, यूपी की जो सरकार है, वो इस परिस्थिति में है क्या?
बहुत ही अच्छा प्रश्न आपने पूछा है, और मुझे लगता है कि इस सेमीकंडक्टर के बारे में बहुत से हमारे देशवासियों को, प्रदेशवासियों को इसकी जानकारी भी नहीं और ज्यादा जुटाना भी नहीं चाहता। लेकिन एक समय था मोदी जी से पहले कि हम पूरे देश में एक चिप भी नहीं बनाते थे, सेमीकंडक्टर नाम की कोई यूनिट हमारे पास नहीं थी। आज उस तरफ बढ़ना कि हम अमेरिका, हम चाइना, तमाम विदेशों पे निर्भर थे इस सेमीकंडक्टर के लिए, आज उस तरफ बढ़ना एक बहुत बड़ी चुनौती है। और मुझे लगता है जिस तरीके से माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने यहाँ पर सेमीकंडक्टर के लिए सोचा इस देश में, और माननीय मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ जी ने भी जिस तरीके से सेमीकंडक्टर के एक हब उत्तर प्रदेश को बनाने की सोची है, ये बहुत ही दूरदर्शी कदम है और बहुत सूझबूझ के साथ हम उसमें आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। आगे आने वाले समय में बहुत ड्रास्टिक परिवर्तन होगा, बहुत बड़ा क्रांतिकारी बदलाव उत्तर प्रदेश और देश में होने वाला। इस एक डिजिटल क्रांति के बाद एक पूरी बड़ी सेमीकंडक्टर की क्रांति है, बहुत बड़ी क्रांति सेमीकंडक्टर का क्षेत्र हमारे देशवासियों के लिए लाने वाला है।
धन्यवाद जेपीएस जी, मनी कंट्रोल के इस मंच पर आकर आप न सिर्फ अपनी मिनिस्ट्री से जुड़ी हुई चीजों की, बल्कि उत्तर प्रदेश जिस रास्ते पर जा रहा है, खासतौर पर सेमीकंडक्टर हब बनने के रास्ते पर, उससे जुड़ी हुई बातें रखने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपको।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपको, आपने यहाँ पर हमको इतना अवसर दिया है, और एक नेटवर्क की टीम सदैव बहुत अच्छे ढंग से और बहुत अच्छे ढंग से प्रोग्रेस कर रहा है। जिस तरीके से देश का नेटवर्क बढ़ रहा है, नेटवर्क 18 का भी नेटवर्क बढ़ रहा है। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद आपको।
Thank you very much, sir, especially for that golden dialogue on the at the end. Network 18 का भी network बढ़ रहा है. Very happy to hear that. Thank you very much, Shri JPS Rathod ji, for sharing your vision and insights, and to Brajesh for guiding such an engaging session. Moving on to our next panel. Now, if India's electronics journey has begun with assembly, the next phase is about moving up the value chain through design, R&D, advanced components, and innovation-led manufacturing. With strong policies, infrastructure, and talent, Uttar Pradesh is positioning itself at the heart of this transformation, as our next session explores how policy, industry, and talent are converging to turn ambition into an innovation-driven electronics powerhouse. Now, to guide this conversation, please welcome Nalin Mehta once again on stage. Nalin. And joining us with their expertise on industry, policy, skill development and entrepreneurship are Mr. Sushil Pal. Welcome back, sir, on stage, the Joint Secretary. Yes. Mr. Sushil Pal, the Joint Secretary of METI. Mr. Anurag Yadav, the Principal Secretary, Department of IT and Electronics, Uttar Pradesh. Manish K. Gupta, Director, Academics and Senior Professor, Kaushalya, the Skills University, who's joining us all the way from Gujarat. And Pankaj Mohindru, Chairman, India Cellular and Electronics Association. And joining us virtually is Mr. Rajesh Agarwal, Co-founder, Micromax and Bhagwati Products. Please give them a big round of applause. We can do with more energy in the room. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chandra. And we have a power-packed panel. Sunil ji, firstly, thank you for doing the second edition of this for us this evening. We've heard the politicians speak, and we've heard the vision statements from key ministers in the UP government. So I wanted to kind of bring this together, some of the tie up the threads of this a little bit together, and start with you. Sunil ji, if I can, I know you've spoken a little, Sushil, sorry, my bad on that. So you have, you already had a chat with Chandra earlier in the evening. I wanted to ask you to to explain a little bit more. See, a lot of people, when they think about semiconductors, electronics, and what's happening in the country, people know something big is happening, but a lot of people don't understand the details. So you've been driving this from the central government's end with a whole bunch of people at the ministry and for over 2 years now. What does the direction mean to you from the minister and from the prime minister? What is the vision that you see at the central government end?
The direction has been, first of all, to create as much domestic capacity as we can. As I stated earlier as well, the government believes that this industry is purely a foundational industry, and we need to create as much capability as we can. But at the same time, we also need to keep in mind that no country can actually become self-sufficient in this electronic sector. It's a very complex supply chain. It's something, I don't think there is no industry like this which having such a complex supply chain which goes into layers and layers. And no country in the world is actually, they can call themselves to be self-sufficient in terms of, in terms of all technology across all the supply chain. However, we must become self-reliant, that we are actually self-sufficient in at least the critical technologies, and at the same time we ought to make sure that whatever supply chain we depend on, those are highly diversified. I think they're not in the concentrated geographies that we are left at the mercy or at a free will of any country to choke our supply chain. So that's the broad vision. So we have to be very selective in terms of which areas we pick to create our own, to become more reliant and become more self-sufficient.
So let me bring in Anurag Yadav, the Principal Secretary for IT and Electronics in the government of Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh is one of the 5 or 6 states where semiconductor investments are coming in as part of the larger national semiconductor mission. So when you look at the state of Uttar Pradesh, both for electronics and semiconductors, when you look at, say, other states like Karnataka, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Maharashtra, in your view, how does Uttar Pradesh distinguish itself? How does it sort of become more competitive? What are the things that you are doing for Uttar Pradesh to stand out in competition to other states?
Okay, I found this question being asked to almost everyone from UP, how you are competitive. So UP need not be competitive, if I have to say. I mean, with the 25 crore population of a state, I may compete with the nations, not with the state. I mean, you look at the standards, but coming to the point, I mean, obviously, just not to boast about the size of the population, it's a healthy thing amongst the state, I must say. And it's not that we are competing with each other. In fact, what we are competing is what is best for India. So each state puts forward not a competition against each other, but a competition for racing towards taking the country forward. So when you look at the semiconductor mission, primarily the driving seat has been Ministry with Indian Semiconductor Mission. And states do pitch in to supplement whatever has been there on the plate with the ministry. So we have been supporting that. But if you look at how the mission is working from end to end, what kind of critical technologies are being approved, what kind of plants are being approved, in what region they are being approved, all these have probably a plan. It's not just that somebody is competing and getting it in that state. So if you ask me as a person from the state of UP, I would say that rather than putting this question of competition amongst the state, we should see it as India competing at global stage now. And we have reached to that stage where we have to see all states. So some advantages are there, let's say for example, my southern brothers who are in Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, they have certain advantages. Those advantages are maybe because of the location, because of being on the coast. But Noida could have another advantage of being near capital. I mean, it's as simple as that. That Jewar Airport being on the corridor of every you would say, if you look at industrial hub or manufacturing hub of the country, Punjab, Haryana, when you see the north-south corridor, east-west corridor, you will find how Jewar is emerging as the new place for all kind of economic activity. So every state has its own potential, has its own strength, uniquely, I would say, placed. Rather than competing with each other, probably we are complementing each other's strength, and that is how we are taking the country forward under the able leadership of center and state.
Right. We've heard from the central government and the state government. Let me bring in both the industry and the industry bodies. We have Mr. Rajesh Agarwal, co-founder of Micromax and Pavati Products, joining us from Chennai. He was to be here in person, but I think he got delayed with a couple of legal issues there. So thank you very much for taking the time, Mr. Agarwal, for joining us online. You've heard the Principal Secretary for IT and Electronics. You have large investments in UP. There's a lot of manufacturing going on in UP on electronics. About 50-55% of mobile phones in India are now manufactured in this state. What has your experience been as an investor, as a promoter, managing projects in UP? If you can tell us about your journey and your perspective a little bit on how Uttar Pradesh looks to you as an investment destination.
Now, this is a very, very important question as far as the industry and the country is concerned. We are there in many states, including Telangana, Rajasthan, Uttarakhand, UP. As far as the experience in the UP is concerned, it is very, very good. We are there in UP for last 1.5 years, and we have around 10,000 people working with us in Noida factory. And the experience is varied. The atmospheres, the bureaucracy, the support from the government, everything, right from the center and right at the state level. Both the governments are very, 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 very supportive. Sushil ji is there from the center and Anurag ji is there from the state. We get all kind of a support from IT also, and we get all kind of a support from the state also. I just to mention out here, I was talking to Mr. Anurag just last week, and I said, who is the point of contact in UP? He said, I am your point of contact. So that is the kind of a response you have from the state. And when a principal secretary kind of a level, guy is talking like that, you get a lot of support, you get a lot of energy there. So there is always support in terms of all kind of incentives. There is all kind of a support in terms of the people management. There is all kind of a support in terms of the infrastructure and support also. So I think as far as the UP is concerned, we are fully satisfied, and we intend to have our mother factory in the UP. And when I say mother factory, so we want to have a large factory wherein we invite all our joint venture partners also in that particular factory. We have the components PLI also. We have we'll have component factories also. So it is going to be an integrated kind of a factory wherein we are going to assemble not only the mobiles but also the IT, also the component, also the servers. So it is going to be a complete end-to-end kind of a business model.
Thanks, Mr. Agarwal. Let me go to Mr. Pankaj Mohindru, the chairman of the India Cellular and Electronics Association. So you've been sort of looking at this from the industry body point of view and working with different state governments and the central government. So we looked at the positive aspects. But what are the friction points that prevent, say, value addition in going beyond assembly of products? When you look at, say, when you want to scale up and look and invest in different states, what are the sort of friction points in your view that we still need to address as a country or in the states? Is it tariffs? Is it inversions, capex, risk, scale, technological access? What in your view is the real issue?
You know, since I'm in Moneycontrol, if somebody asks me, will you go short on UP or long on UP? My answer is I'll go long on UP. Right? And you've been asking this question like what Anurag ji said, that you've been asking these questions to everybody. You see, for us, developing UP is a national compulsion. It's a national project. So, and as my colleague Rajesh was saying, despite many fault lines, you see things are clicking in place. And the first important thing is the enthusiastic mindset. And there is a feeling of the chill factor is much lower now. It's very difficult to define the chill factor, but there was a chill factor, you know, as far as India is concerned, as far as UP is concerned, there was a bigger chill factor. That is, you know, drastically reduced.
So
sorry, please. So that's on a very broader side, at a very strategic side. Now, what has to be done, I think this is one industry. You know, you are very laudatory about the government and all that, but I think the core of every industry are the entrepreneurs and the companies who risk their capital. Because it is the fundamental responsibility of the government to do what it is doing. It is the risk capital, it's the risk ability, which is one which has to be, you know, cherished the most. And I think media must understand that. I'm sort of sermonizing the media, but, you know, when we have these workshops, etc., you know, if you see the last 40 years of speeches of our apex chambers, and you take out something from 1987, you'll think that the government is doing a fantastic job. Everybody says the same thing repeatedly. So I think we must change that. Get very honest. You know, and
so let me ask you that when we are honest with government, in your experience, with the central government and with state governments like in UP, how well is that honest feedback taken?
Very positively. And that is a big error, big mistake, which is pervasive, I think also created by media, that this is a government which is not that, it's not open to criticism. The criticism has to be very forthright, very, you know, and it has to be with a solution. That's what Anurag was telling us again and again, that, you know, tell us what to do, tell us what to do. You know, because we were going through the whole 9 yards, but he was saying, tell us what to do. What is the prescription? How can we improve? Now, let's come to the core electronics and this thing. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल मैं यूपी में हूं तो हमें अपनी औकात पहचाननी चाहिए, सबसे जरूरी वो होता है। इंडियाज कोर स्ट्रेंथ इज आवर मैन पावर कॉस्ट एंड आवर डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड। तो हमें दुनिया में जितनी चीजें असेंबल हो सकती हैं वो खूब अच्छी तरीके से असेंबल करनी चाहिए। Our problem is that we do a lot of mental masturbation and we run ahead of ourselves as a country. कि ये हो गया तो ये क्यों नहीं हुआ, ये क्यों नहीं हुआ। So पहले सारी
I'm just wondering that I'm wondering how blunt you are in private, seeing how blunt you are in public. So.
No, this is private only. I mean, this is when you are in your nation, when you are at any forum, because all of mankind is actually one organism, so we have to be candid. So we must assemble everything under the sun, right? And export it to the rest of the world. Our biggest fault line is that we are very inward looking. Our merchandise exports are very small. So we have to change that situation. Second is GVCs, global value chains, जो कि जैसे Apple है या Dell है या Nike है. These people control 70 to 90% of the global trade. So to give the best environment to them is very important to build the industry.
Just hold that thought and let me bring in Mr. Manish Gupta, who's the Director, Academics and Senior Professor at Kuchala University, also involved in skill development and advising the various governments. I think Mr. Mahindra spoke about going long on UP and about the chill factor going away and so on and so forth. But there's also a demographic issue, right? And there's also an issue of skilling. And so how do you see that being addressed? Because if you're going to work on scale in the way that Mr. Mohindra has outlined, you really need a skill enhancement and there's a skill gap. How do we fill that?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much Moneycontrol and CNBC-18 for inviting me, because Lucknow is my Janmbhumi and Gujarat has been my Karmbhumi for 18 years. So it's really a very nice moment for me. Now, having said that, I see there are two very positive things in UP. Number one, I have seen especially in UP, Bihar and Purvanchal area, the youth is really having a lot of desire to do something big, So that is something that we can, actually capitalize that thing, If you give them an ecosystem or an environment, they can do a lot of greater things, okay? And second thing is that there are so many science, because you see, whenever we want to develop any ecosystem of innovation, science has to be the first, because whenever we want to do anything in the semiconductor, science is very important. Science gives you technology, technology gives you business, and that creates the ecosystem. And that is the way, you can actually create a $1 trillion economy very faster when you do the technology development using science, And so that is really very, very important thing. So I think in that sense also UP have found many people, especially in science, because there are very good universities in science, If you take people from physics or math or whatever background, or biology, and we can build a lot of great things from here. So I think the vision of Honorable Prime Minister...
Let me ask you something. One of the things that the Prime Minister has really been pushing on skilling is in the new education policy. Also now he's talking about the idea of, leaving the cobwebs of Macaulay behind and all of that.
Right.
And one of the big issues about education, on skilling in particular in manufacturing, is about skilling in the local language.
Correct.
So how do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, so
अंग्रेजी में तो हो जाता है, but हिंदी में कैसे होगा?
Yes, ये तो है. हिंदी में actually NEP जो है, NEP में तो इसका वाकई प्रावधान है कि that you can do things in Hindi and also together with science, or with English also, so that you can, because you need to be competitive internationally also. एक चीज आपको ध्यान देनी होगी कि what we need actually more and more product universities. We want people to fail. They do innovation and they fail actually, because that is not taught in our education system, right? Throughout India. That we don't allow them to fail. Okay, failure means, okay, that's very bad thing. I always go in the class and say that you fail, okay, dikhao. And then you convert, right? And that is something, a very, very important thing among the youth. That
we're going to ask Mr. Agarwal on how willing he is to hire people who are failing, but we'll come to that in a second. I want to ask Mr. Sushil also. So, at a larger, because you were looking at this from a macro perspective and dealing with different states. So, in terms of an approach, should we be looking at identifying certain national champions, or are we looking at a much wider mid-level, much wider base of companies? What is the kind of driving impulse and the strategic direction that you guys are working with at the central level?
I think there is space for both the bigger, which is we call national champions, as well as the MSME players. I think one of the most fundamental elements of electronic industry is that, for this to become sustainable or to be efficient, to survive, I think you need that scale. That scale is important. So maybe you need certain national champions in certain segments where scale matters matters the most, right? But then there are different kinds of, there are different types of components which have, or products which have different challenges, right? So some have a scale issues, which are not so capital intensive. Some have a capital issue, some have technology issues. But definitely, so at the top, yes, I think you need national champions for sure. But then there is definitely a lot of scope for the MSME players which can form a part of the supply chain, which can actually feed those national champions. So when to the point of the GVC which Pankaj was making, actually, I think one of our vision is actually also to increase our share, India's share in the GVC trade. I think presently it's less than 1%. We definitely want to increase it to 5% and more. But these MSME players actually can become, if they are here, they would be national champions, right, for sure. But then the MSME players, they can become a part of the global value chain. They can integrate more with them. And this we see as we speak, this we see happening. As the supply chain is being built up for most of the champions which we are witnessing at present.
So we've seen a lot of movement in this sector with a lot of serious policy moves led by the Prime Minister himself directly on the last, say, a year and a half, 2 years. It's been accelerated after the Trump tariffs, largely because of issues around sovereignty and so on. There's a lot of movement around the semiconductor mission and all of those things. So if you sort of look at the next 12 to 18 months, what are the next big things on the horizon from where you sit?
Next, I don't think there'll be anything which big in next 12 months. I think the bigger thing next. What I see is definitely the ISM 2.0 that should be coming, which should be the one big thing. And I definitely hope that the tariff issues will get over, by the US. That should be one other big thing. And as we hear the government spokesperson speak, and they should be, maybe by the early next year, by the end of this year. So,
Mr. Yadav, a similar question to you that, we've seen the big investment from HCL, Foxconn, which is, I think the land issues have now been sorted out. Next 2-3 months, we should see the project being starting off. What are the big anchor investors you're looking at over the next, say, 15 to 18 months? What's on the anvil now?
So as an officer, for me, naming companies, I would believe, is not something which is a right way to say. What I'd say is, the larger issue which you posed is how we place our strategy, whether we are banking on a large, big corporation driving it, or the MSMEs, or the smaller units. So for a scale of a country like India, or for a scale of a state like UP, as my colleague from Government of India suggested, we require both, not just because there is a space for them, or there is a space for both of them, but also because, see, we are a country which needs not only growth and scale, but also employment. If you look at our PLIs, they have a linkage to employment generation as well. So we are just not looking for income generation for few corporations. What we are looking at, what will this growth drive? Will this growth be with equity? Will it reach to each household? And how do you mix that? So these policy choices are probably driven, and if you ask me from the state side, I do see role for both of them, because one is required for the growth and another is required for employability. Obviously, the big corporation will employ much bigger population, but at the same time, the ecosystem needs to be built up around those smaller units as well, which will employ much larger populace. So there is a scope for that. And to answer the question already, just a quick sum up on that. UP government cabinet has already sanctioned more than almost 30,000 crores investment proposals are already with us. and we are awaiting Semicon 2. I believe the moment that policy is done with Government of India, we will have much more bigger investments apart from the Foxconn as far as the semiconductor mission is concerned. Just one more point to add what you asked about the skilling. That's very important, but probably now with the technology we are able to solve that, because technology today with AR, VR and language provides you a solution which goes beyond the barrier of a particular language. So today everybody operates mobile without knowing English. What you require for a training is a functional skill, and functional skill can be easily imparted through technology now. Technology itself is facilitating that. So I don't see UP having any disadvantage for being a Hindi state, because the technology today facilitates automatically. I mean, everybody gets a very routine translation immediately, but not only the translation, other parts also. So I believe we are now poised to take a takeoff stage is there, and hopefully we all would see that journey. Maybe when next year we will be sitting here, you will see that much more has happened on this route. Thank you.
Let me take this question to Mr. Agarwal, who's waiting patiently in Chennai. Mr. Agarwal, couple of questions to you. One is, if you can respond to what Mr. Yadav was talking about, that language is no longer a barrier because of technology in terms of skilling. What is your view on that? The second is that you mentioned your various investments in different states, right? You preside over a large portfolio. How much of that is in UP, and how do you see that growing, and what's your outlook over the next couple of years in terms of your investments? 30,000 crores of investments are lined up in UP. How much of that is going to be from your end?
So I will answer this question in two parts. First was scaling. See, ultimately, as far as the scaling is concerned, so Nalini, you would appreciate, हमारी कंट्री में एक तरफ अर्जुन भी है और एक तरफ एकलव्य भी है. So ultimately, as far as the scaling is concerned, education really helps, but education is not the only key driver. See, we have a factory in Bihar also which is into ethanol business. See, and that factory, most of the people working there are maybe under 12th grade or something, but the kind of competence level or skill level which I see in them, and especially in the Bihar and UP also, is amazing. Trust me, I mean, basically the kind. I just give you one example also. Maybe my PA also, he joined me as a delivery boy maybe some 10 years back, and today he does everything on the computer also, mobile also, everything. He writes mails also, he does work on the Excel sheet also, and everything. So my point, as far as the skilling is concerned, as far as the skill set is concerned, education really helps, no doubt about it. But besides education or besides language is not the barrier. Whether it is Hindi speaking or whether it is English speaking, so it doesn't matter. We have a factory in Hyderabad also, we have a factory in UP also and Bihar also. So language, according to me, is not a barrier. Most of even the key business profile people, so probably speaks Hindi and they does very well. So ultimately, as far as the language is concerned, so that's fine with me. And as far as the investment in UP is concerned, we have factories in 5 states today. UP is now the mother factory, as I said. We are going to invest UP in a big way. Today, as Mr. Anurag said, I mean, basically out of 30,000 crores, so probably I can proudly say that 5% also belongs to us. But going forward, we are going to invest around 3,000 to 5,000 crores in next three years. So that's the business plan that we have. And I'm sure, I mean, basically most of the business plans in and around the mobile, IT and the other segments, plus the components, UP is going to be our key driver, and UP is going to be the key state where we are going to invest.
Thanks very much. Mr. Mahendru, if I can bring you in on a larger debate around PLIs, right? So there's a Raghuram Rajan argument, for example, that if we have so much of production-linked incentives, are we really adding value and so on? And what should be the right threshold for that? So a question to you is that what should be the right kind of value addition markup that we should aim at? What is realistic, say, in the next 5 years? Where do you see that being by 2030 in the electronics sector in India?
So my favorite question these days is, and I like to ask the audience, what is the import of electronics in China? This is a question I ask everybody. The answer is $700 billion. That's the amount of electronics which China imports. but they export almost $1 trillion. I would like to be in that situation, that we, our import goes up, but our export goes up much faster. I think we'll get to a value addition of between 30 to 70% depending on the products. Because the foundational industries are coming up now, cells, semiconductors, packing, but the 3 nanometer, 5 nanometer, which is the smartphone one, is not going to happen. But the middle, which is what has happened with the ECMS, by another 3 to 4 years, we'll have a giant sub-assembly and component industry in the middle. So that will make us very competitive. Because the 3 lack of competitiveness is the bill of material, where, you see, because you already have an ecosystem in China and Vietnam, we have a disadvantage. Then on capital cost, we have some disadvantage. And we have some disadvantage on the interest cost. But for UP, I like to give 2 specific recommendations. And for the Honorable Minister also, that one of the biggest weaknesses of UP is that UP leaders and bureaucrats do not travel for, getting investment out compared to the other states. And
so you like to see more road shows for investment?
And I've been saying that now for the last maybe 38 years. First time I told Mr. N.D. Tiwari, so he very jokingly said, "Hum sab hamare paas aate hain." Although he was a fantastic chief minister, but I think that is a structural.
You'd like to see Yogi ji travel more?
I think the leaders in bureaucracy and the political leaders should also travel more and attract investment, because अब कुछ दिखाने वाला है, दिखाने के लिए है. Second thing is, there used to be a question asked. You said after 2 years, what should be the question? We used to ask, who's manufacturing in India? Right? This is 10 years back. Now the question is, who is not manufacturing in India? So similar question should be for UP also. Our first should be, how many GVCs are manufacturing in UP and how many are exporting out of this? And over the next 10 years, we should have all the global GVCs of the world having a base here and exporting out of UP. That will be the true success.
I think that's a very interesting point. And Mr. Yadav, since we're the panel on UP, final words on you, any response to what Mr. Mohindra just said?
I mean, I think he has put in things on the right perspective, that there is a time now where we should see who is not here and we should invite them. We should see that, everybody, the way he's suggested, not only in electronics, but all, global supply chain GVCs. So whether it is textile, for example, Noida has a big segment of textiles also. So UP has a potential, as we say that it's like the 5th largest nation on the world atlas, if you see, as a nation. And we have that potential for each sector to, and we have that strength of having such human resource. So I completely agree and align with what he has suggested. And I can only reassure that, yes, we have taken stock of these situations. We understand it. We have now a dedicated Invest UP program who do all kind of reach out. Even, for example, tomorrow they are having another program related to electronic manufacturing. So I'm just saying that government has probably appreciated the feedback, right, and we are working on that.
Right. Mr. Mohindra, we have only 30 seconds left, so quick final comment.
So on Raghuram, वो IIT में भी बहुत ज्ञान देते थे. So in fact, his seniors invited me over. He said, we have to rag this one guy. So he starts giving too much gyan. So, but on a very serious note, all of government in India, which is the state government, central government and the local bodies, spend 100 lakh crores a year. That is what we spend, 100 lakh crores. Now we want manufacturing to be 25% of the GDP. So the simple arithmetic is, that is the kind of investment you need to do in manufacturing. It's simple arithmetic. Raghuram or no Raghuram.
Mr. Agarwal, final comment to you, final word to you, because I see you raising your hand from Chennai.
See, one of the big change I think, Nalin, is today, as far as the industry is concerned, industry is also putting the country first kind of approach. Instead of only making money kind of a thing, everybody is saying, if the country is growing, if the country is progressing, everybody is going to grow. So the approach of the industry is the country first. So that is the big change which has come into the country. I think I appreciate that from the government point of view.
And that's a lovely note to end on, country first. Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand to this illustrious panel.
Huge round of applause. Nalin, what a fantastic panel, and it was amazing to get such rich perspective from the IT secretary, the joint secretary, as well as industry leaders, people who are working so closely on the skills front. Thank you all so much for taking time and making it to Lucknow. Now coming to our next panel. Well, the semiconductor industry is at the core of modern tech economy, powering everything from consumer electronics to defense systems, telecommunications, and emerging technologies like AI and EVs. For India, the next frontier isn't just to assemble or basic manufacturing. It's in building the entire semiconductor stack. From chip design to advanced fabrication, testing and packaging, achieving this requires a robust ecosystem that combines innovation, investment, skill, talent and strategy policy support. India has made significant strides in design and manufacturing, but the real question is, can the country create a self-reliant semiconductor ecosystem that's capable of competing on the global stage? Now, this session will explore exactly this and more. Please welcome on stage Mr. Ravi Ranjan, the Managing Director of UP Electronics Corporation, Parag Nayak, the co-founder and CEO of Sankhya Labs, Nikul Shah, the founder and CEO of Indisemic, and Mohammad Athar, partner PwC. All of you please make it on stage. Thank you so much. Do we have Mr. Ravi Ranjan with us? Yes, he's here. Welcome, sir. Thank you, everyone. Looks like you made it on time for the event. And thank you also to our patient audience. We are coming towards the fag end. It's this and another session, but thank you for being a wonderful audience and listening so attentively. Parag, let me start with you. All the previous sessions focused a lot on the manufacturing side of the equation. How many plants have been approved? Where has it been approved? There was, of course, a lot of emphasis also on the skills equation. But I think, should we look at other aspects of the semiconductor innovation ecosystem? Because even when we spoke to Mr. Sushil Pal from METI, he said that ISM 2.0 is not going to be hinged only on manufacturing. We're going to take an ecosystem approach to it. What can we do on chip design? What can we do on other aspects of innovation? If you can give us your own perspective.
Yeah, sure. I think some of the speakers earlier mentioned this point. India has a far more robust and advanced design ecosystem. Practically every chip made in the world has a Bangalore hand to it, right? But just like...
if you can keep your mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like, pre-independence, most of the wars that the British won were under the Indian army, but we never got the credit. So we've had that problem. We have the skills, we have, but what we don't have is the ability to take risks and patience. And partly it's also, I think somebody else mentioned it, it's also media, right? Everybody expects some of these to happen in 2 years or 5 years. These things take a long time. They are like a Chinese bamboo tree which grows underground for a long time and then suddenly sprouts. So we can't see progress in innovation like the way you usually see tangible ones in manufacturing. You have land, you've got machinery, you've got value add and all of that. So how do you value an IPR? An IPR is like a piece of art. Right, or a great piece of music. Sometimes it is appreciated only when somebody is dead. Like, for example, Van Gogh or even R.D. Burman, right? He was appreciated when his music is appreciated much more later than it was then. So you need the kind of a Shrota to be able to do that. That ecosystem is still not in India. My own opinion and our journey at Sankhya has always been looking at that aspect and the ability to take risks. And like Pankaj mentioned earlier, people don't know the kind of risks entrepreneurs take to actually go build the ecosystem. Well, the government does what it has to do. It's the entrepreneurs and the risks that we take will eventually define whether we'll be able to do some of these or not. And one final point, we have been also focused excessively on the bottom-up part, largely because I think the government is being advised by a lot of foreign transplants. Right, so people don't ask us, right? We know what it is to build a semiconductor company in India. We've been doing it for 17 years, right? Even before the world was fashionable. And a lot of people here in this panel would appreciate, they would laugh at us. In 2007, if I had gone to PwC and asked him if I want to build a semiconductor company, he would have shooed me away. And a lot of investors did shoo us away, right? Our first set of investors were none of the big tech entrepreneurs from Bangalore. They're all villagers. And I fondly call them NH4 angels, because NH4 is a road that connects Bangalore and Pune. So it's between the, in the villages between Bangalore and Pune who invested in semiconductor companies in India. And that's what is the story about Micron also, I guess, right? The potato farmer had actually invested in Micron initially. So we have to look at also the top-down approach, which is basically you create new inflection points, very difficult. But if you create a new inflection point, you actually succeed very big. If 8 years ago, if I had told you NVIDIA would have been a $5 trillion company, none of the consulting companies in the world would have predicted that.
Today or after PwC for
Yeah. No, I'm not. Sorry, I don't mean to be personal. He's getting right here. So these things just happen, right? This happen. And top-down ecosystem, there are 3 or 4 inflection points that have come in, and that come in every decade. In the 70s, it was the microprocessor that pitched Intel to where it is. Then TI in that following year. Then I don't know if you know a company called ARM that actually took off because the mobile ecosystem took off, right? And then NVIDIA accidentally got into AI. Not many
GPUs,
people know that.
Yeah.
GPUs were there, but they were meant for something else. So there are technologies like D2M that we've been working on, which could actually pitchfork us to a different level. If you start to follow an NVIDIA or somebody else, it's very difficult to beat them at their own game. You have to change the rules of the game, and those are much more difficult and much more difficult to quantify. They're very intangible. That's the problem.
I want to get the other startup founder on the panel, Nikul, who's come all the way from Gujarat. Thank you so much. Do you agree with Parag that our government is too much under the influence of foreign transplants, he calls it, that they are not looking at this from the top down, they're looking at it only from the bottoms up?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting.
You can keep the mic a little closer. Yeah.
Is it now? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think as per my perspective, as I just started 3 years back as a startup, I can say now we are a company. I started a vertical approach where currently a lot of IoT modules are coming in picture. As sir mentioned that new policy has the module, chip, everything in that policy, right? So we thought that as I have a 15 years of experience into that field, I thought that there is a module requirement first where a lot of neighboring companies like Espressif and all are holding their hands in the products, right? So we don't have to create a semiconductor ecosystem. We have to create an ecosystem or a cluster where chip to product concept be in India. If you see our neighboring countries, they are creating the products, they are supplying products to other countries. Majority in India, we are importing those products, right? And in those products, the chips are developed in their countries only. So if we are building the chips, we have to build the products also, and we have to accept that those products has to have an Indian chip. So as per my perspective, government is doing good things. As a startup, yeah, definitely if it's a 10 years before when I just started my career, 15 years before, then there is no system. Even I want to do R&D. once I pass out, I do a lot of interviews because I have an interest in R&D. There is very less companies. I have to go to Bangalore. I have to take job in Bangalore. Then after 5 years, I came back to Gujarat, where I shifted to my native, right?
Right.
So I think this type of clusters is needed in India, where there has to be a product company, there has to be a chip company. Now assembly, manufacturing, everything is there. Now we want to build a product nation.
Mr. Ravi Ranjan, if I can get your perspective, sir. We've heard from, from the UP minister, from the IT secretary on UP's path, its vision, the kind of incentives that it is rolling out, the red carpet that it's been rolling out. We've heard from a lot of ministers as well. As someone who's leading the Electronics Corporation in charge of drafting the whole semiconductor policy, very ambitious policy. Take us through, the progress so far, your own expectations, and how are you encouraging this design ecosystem, skill ecosystem, because that is still a challenge, as the previous panelists have said.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. And, as you said, and Parag rightly pointed out, that government should, look at, bringing the whole ecosystem together, and probably some top-down approach also. So I would like to just highlight that UP government is creating inflection point for itself in the Honorable Chief Minister's dynamic leadership. We have dedicated 1,000 acres semiconductor park near the Jewar airport, which is going to be operationalized very soon. We have a very vibrant ecosystem. The semiconductor policy, piggybacking on the central government's policy, we are with open arms. We are inviting not just the big companies but also the startups. We have a vibrant ecosystem of startups in UP who are actually designing chips, and we are helping them from our startup policy. Whereas we have 1,000 crores of fund the UP government has dedicated for such startups who maybe in deep tech they are working. Apart from the incentives that UP semiconductor policy offers, there is a huge market that UP has, and keeping that a longer horizon in the view, we have got this kind of vision where we would like to have the big companies, the smaller players. Already in the Greater Noida sector, we have a lot of design companies.
Yeah.
Which are working here. Roughly, we have NXP, we have, ARMS and all.
In fact, a lot of R&D setups from
there.
NXP, Qualcomm, and so on. Yeah.
So I mean, UP is doing well in design centers. We have got the talent, we have got the IITs and the triple IITs. So, a lot of academia industry linkage is on the cards. We are keenly looking towards the ISM 2.0. Where the horizon is going to be expanded for the entire ecosystem, chemicals, scaling, and the manufacturing part is also going to be taken care of. So we are keeping an eye on that, and we'll follow the path that central government shows. So all in all, I just would like to share that UP is not just trying to catch the wind, but also has a vision for the longer future, and we would like to create that ecosystem here. As in electronic sector that we already have.
Right. So, Nicole, good news for you. They are doing a lot with respect to startups, and they have a big fund as well.
Definitely. Actually, it's a Modi and Yogi. So Gujarat and UP is the simple. Who is the next after Modi? People are saying Yogi. So I can say my next branch would be in UP.
That's too dicey for me to talk about. But Athar, give us your perspective. You guys have put together such an extensive report on the whole...
difficult to read. Look, each country will follow its own path of why they need semiconductor as an industry. And it's very important that as we think a vision for our own country, we should be very clear on what we are trying to build when you talk about a stack. For example, this industry is one of the most complex industry.
Yeah.
This is an industry which is highly capital intensive. So if, for example, the choice of node determines how much capital we are going to put in. So let's say India has been smart around thinking about above 28 nanometer nodes. They have not tried to attract sub 10 or sub 20 node because, for example, you are talking about $20 billion excess of money if you're sub 20 nanometer. That's the kind of capital intensity you need. So the step one, for example, as we think about ecosystem, India's semiconductor industry has a large demand coming from its electronics industry, and these two industries have a strong adjacencies. India's semiconductor industry has a very large demand coming from automobile industry, especially now EVs coming in. And India's semiconductor industry will have a very strong demand coming from possibly the whole 5G, 6G focus, that is the telecom industry, and even the healthcare focus or the medical devices that we look into. So that's the step one of thinking about the right choice of fabs or OSATs that we have been thinking about. I think the second step is, as we think about the large industry, India, where is India's competitive advantage? India's competitive advantage lies in that globally 20 to 25% of the design talent for the world is in India around Bangalore. Now, if those people want to have entrepreneurial journey, people who have worked for Intel and Qualcomm, and see this as a great opportunity to move out of big brands and start setting up their own design startups for fabless stuff, for RISC-V platform, and there are many other platforms, whether for AI or IoTs they put in. What is the ecosystem the government and policymakers are making, which differentiates the new startups that are coming in, trying to attempt some of this? The DLI does a bit of that, which is the design-linked incentive under the larger semiconductor. Can we take a leadership around this to say, we have become, a leader in this whole design ecosystem that's coming in, and we are promoting some of the startups. Some of these startups will eventually. The second question is, I was in Bangalore on a Semicon meet of stakeholders. What is good really about this journey of India's semiconductor is that the government and private sector is working very closely, actively. So we are having a lot of 6 monthly, quarterly sessions on. Now, one of the startup guys said, how many of you will trust me? So right now, even in this play of ASML versus a new startup, whom will you go with? And that's where some kind of assurance and, for these startups to have some bit of certainty on their demand is clearly needed. And the last bit on your first question, I would say is, India needs to start thinking about a bit of a vertical specialization on things they want to do. So, for example, would we be known for, let's say, a lot of focus on auto chips and auto design? Will we be focused for, let's say, electronics industry use cases, or whether we will be on EVs, industrial IoT, whatever? So I think a bit of that focus, there's a lot to be done. It's an extremely competitive industry, and hence that's how the journey for India could be differentiated, and accordingly a bit of policy actions as well as investments actions could be taken.
Parag, do you agree with that we should first play to our strengths?
Yeah, our strength is design, right? And I don't think that there's not enough money. There is enough people selling stuff on internet. I say the chaddi baniyan on internet, and yet going IPO, right? So there is enough money.
IPOs are oversized.
Oh yeah, whatever.
Okay.
That's a reflection of where we are as a society. But nevertheless, I think there's enough money. And coming to the capex part, I think on the design part, for the 3 billion or 4 billion capex for the manufacturing, imagine if you had invested 1 billion in startups, 10 million each, you would have got what, 100? When you have a critical mass of 100, you would get a unicorn or two from sales, not just by valuation. So again, the fundamental point also is mindset, right? I think we have to get away from this mindset, and I keep saying this. I have this favorite quote which says, the road, I call this the Vivekananda route, right? The road to Delhi goes from Chicago. So until he was baptized by the white man, he was roaming around like a fakir in the country. So we need somebody out there to, bless us. So we always celebrate somebody who goes out and becomes the CEO of an American company. So until we get comfortable with our own skin, in our own stuff, right, I don't think we'll be able to. That mindset change is happening slowly. But once that does happen, eventually you'll get unicorns, you'll get all these big multinationals coming out of India.
Right.
That's been our, journey. So.
Right. Final 3 minutes. Just want to get closing remarks from all of you. Mr. Ravi Ranjan, your own perspective on what next, what's the next big ambition for UP? The HCL Foxconn project has got sanction from the central government. TARC not yet. But what more can we expect in terms of proposals, even on the design front, other ecosystem efforts?
So basically, we are very agile in terms of policy amendments, and in the next leg, UP is thinking of attracting the whole ecosystem, and obviously playing more strongly on the design part, because the already design ecosystem is there. So we are looking towards the ISM 2.0, and we would like to change accordingly. And I think the semiconductor park that we have already declared, so we would like to invite the investors and also the startups would like to particularly work in the design area. We would like to promote some IPs because in IP India is never forthcoming, and I think that we need to clinch that area also, where we need to have some Indian IPs working for the world. So that's where the the major share of value chain lies. So we would like to work closely with the academia and the industry so that we may promote such startups and possibly own some IPs in near future.
Right. Is that your aim, to create IP? I think even in IIT Madras is a startup called Mindgrove which wants to do something similar, but is that what you
Exactly.
want?
So actually, sir has mentioned correctly. For semiconductor, two things are mentioned: IP, and to design those IP, we need libraries from the foundries. Right. So if we have a one foundry, if we have a two foundry, then every has a different PDK files. Everyone has a different libraries. So IPs would be designed on different nodes with the different libraries. So I think that ecosystem is missing in India. So say example, we are building our chip, single core, where we are designing our own IPs. So we do not have a dependency of the in future, or we do not have to pay royalty to anyone. Similar way, if India will create their own IPs, like RISC-V is open source processor, Vega is creating a super job, we are using the Vega. But similar type, not only processor side, on analog side, some digital side, we also need some IPs, which would be integrated easily with the libraries. So that ecosystem, if we create, then we can create affordable chip. Cheap everyone will make, but India has to create affordable chip where we can compete with the market.
Got it. Other closing comments from you as someone who studied this industry closely. Also some perspective on Uttar Pradesh and its own positioning. I know the IT secretary, the previous session said we shouldn't keep comparing UP to other states. We should see this as an India approach. But what are the strengths as far as Uttar Pradesh is concerned?
So two things I'll say. For example, the scale of demand for skilled people will really, amplify in the next couple of years. If you see, we have almost 18, 20 odd investments of various kinds right now which is WIP, right? All of that will become operational, and hence the demand for people to work, whether on the OSAT side or on the FAB side, will, expand massively in the next 12 to 24 months. And that's where, really focusing on and working closely with those players to really, supply the talent UP has always been known for. I think that becomes very critical to really become one of the exporters of global talent for this industry. I think, sir, on your point on a park in Jewar or closer to Jewar, one of the key issues right now, if you ask anybody, we are quietly closely working in Dholera's semicon investments and one more place that's coming in. I think the supply chain ecosystem right now is very broken for whatever industry we are talking about. We still don't have a good understanding of how to handle these gases, and some of them are very, very complex gases. We don't have a place where these clean rooms can be, and a framework for managing clean rooms. Right now, even if machinery is coming in, where do you keep these, specific machineries while the construction is happening? So the whole logistics needs to come in. So a bit of a focus on enabling that supply chain of the whole semiconductor industry as it comes up will be critical, because specifically from a UP angle, a lot of part of semiconductor industry is a deep red and orange industry. So we will have to really think about how do we manage a bit of these effluents that will come in, a bit of the gases that are going to be managed over there. And if we are being comprehensive about it, the beauty is a lot of this industry's output moves in the belly of air cargo. So as the Jewar airport comes in and it becomes one of the largest airports on this side, there's a very strong and there's a big case study in Thailand, how the growth of tourism in Thailand
enabled the growth of electronics and semiconductor industry, because as more and more planes were landing in Bangkok, in the belly of those planes, because tourists don't carry a lot of stuff with them, the whole supply chain cost was minimized. And that's a great opportunity in terms of if we are building something big around Jewar Airport, that's a huge opportunity to really think about what kind of air cargo will be generated and how do we align with that.
Great.
Just 2 seconds about the question of the competition you said, right? One of the, it's collaboration. One of the things that we have been doing called D2M has been incubated in UP and implemented in Karnataka. So IIT Kanpur actually incubated it. So in that sense, there's a lot of cross collaboration that's possible. I don't think we need to compete.
Great.
A lot of
Great. On that note, thank you all very much for joining us for this session. Great insights on what next can be done and how to leverage the existing strengths that we have. Thank you all very much for joining us. Thank you everyone for such thought-provoking insights. As we close the Moneycontrol and CNBC-TV18 UP TechNext Electronics and Semiconductor Summit, this evening has showcased Uttar Pradesh's ambition to become a national powerhouse in electronics, semiconductors and high-tech manufacturing. So from policy and innovation to skill development and deep tech ecosystems, we've explored the full spectrum of opportunities shaping India's future. A heartfelt thank you to all our speakers, moderators, delegates, the audience and especially the government of Uttar Pradesh for their partnership and commitment. Let's carry today's insights forward and momentum to turn ambition into action and position India as a global leader in semiconductors and electronics. Let's all proceed towards dinner now. Good night.